Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead.
And I am Nathan from Nathan Does Beer.
And welcome to episode 6 of the Business of Beer here on BAOS. Nate, it feels like... Well,
it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Folks may have noticed that we've had a busy summer and both been traveling at almost literal opposite times, which made it a little challenging to get pods in. I squeezed maybe 2 in, I think, in early August from the Business of Beer episodes, which are definitely worth checking out. And but Nate, we haven't done one since probably like early July or something.
That's right.
That's crazy. We're recording this September 5th. God damn it. Well, it's a pleasure to be back. And man, we got a banger of one tonight. This was really a fun one to organize. We have 2 businesses in different parts of the province here in Ontario that essentially are running very similar businesses, but the approach was literally the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And it's to do with bottle shops, which is something that both Nate and I are super into, and contract brewing, and I guess small breweries, contracting plus small breweries type of thing. Very cool. I'm very excited to get into it. So we should just get this going, eh?
Yeah.
So I really wish I was smoother at this. There's like 6 buttons to fucking press and I always mess it up. So we're going to do it. I'm going to do it a little easier. Guys, please welcome Michael from Gather and Alex from Lovebird in the building. Hang on. There it is. There we go.
Welcome, fellas.
Welcome. Great to meet you both. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
It's awesome. It was, like I said, really fun to plan this. I know, Michael and I had been talking for a few months, and he'd sent the glassware. We've been using it basically a year. And you and I connected not too long ago as well, and we were chatting. And as soon as you really explained your business, I was like, oh, this could be kind of perfect. It's I just really think what you guys are both doing is so cool, and you represent almost like the new era of the way breweries can look in Ontario in 2024, or at least post whenever the law came in for bottle shops and stuff. When I don't know when that was, 2021 maybe, 2020, post pandemic, say.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. So I'm excited to hear both your stories, and tonight we all have the same beers, which is great because sometimes we do mess that up. But we got a whole crispy night, which is obviously a lot of fun. So we're gonna start off with a Lovebird beer. We're gonna start off with Good Things Rice Lager right here, which there you go. Look at that, nice little shorty. Yeah. Loving it. Alex, do you want to run through that with us, brother?
Yeah, sure. So I've had the idea of brewing a rice beer for many, many years, and I finally was able to brew the one I wanted to when we started our own contract brand. I figured it was a nice kind of like safe bet to start with. But yeah, I just wanted to brew a beer that was like very easy drinking, crisp, refreshing. But I found that like a lot of lagers sometimes have this like lingering sweetness to it. Mm-hmm. So I really just wanted to add like a little touch of dry hop just to kind of like brighten it up, add like a little touch of like hop, not like greenness, but like freshness, and like a little bit of citrus, a little bit of melon, but just like an all around just like easy, clean, crisp beer to drink. And I think this one sort of hits the spot.
Hell yeah. And you think it was, so it's a rice lager, and you were mentioning just before we started that it was it's got 30% jasmine rice in it?
Yeah, so depending on the batch size and the way the bags of rice work out to in the whole brew, so it can land anywhere from like, I like to keep it above 20 at least, so around 20 to 25, 26 has been the general one. And so we use like almost like an instant jasmine rice brewer product. Because typically if you're brewing with rice or corn or another kind of adjunct, you have to do a pre-gelatinization cook on it, which can then extend your brew day. So rice doesn't gelatinize at the same temperature as barley or wheat.
Huh.
So I've actually brewed like an all rice beer at the previous brewery I worked at, and so we basically have to make like a giant pot of congee first. Okay. And after that, we sort of bring it to a boil, and then after that, we added our cold water and our barley just to bring it back to like a proper like saccharification temperature. So the instant jasmine rice skips that whole process, and you can kind of just throw it in with the rest of your grain at normal average brewing temperature.
Interesting. I never thought about that because, of course, if you're cooking rice, that shit's just gonna like.
Yeah, you first have to turn it into goop to like basically
Right.
access the starch for the enzymes to break it down. Otherwise, you just get nothing out of it.
Huh? That's crazy.
It's
All right.
delicious.
All right, gentlemen. Pleasure to have you both here. Cheers, guys. Get that in
Cheers.
there. Ooh, the nose is great.
The aroma is wild.
Oh, that's fantastic. What's the dry hop, dude?
So it's changed a little bit, but I've landed on Vista. It's like,
Vista.
it's like a USDA like public hop or whatever.
Yeah.
It adds like a nice pear flavor, a little bit of like melon, a little bit of citrus, and then we use sapphire on the hot side. So it's just all sapphire.
Okay. Yeah, that's this is fantastic. This is like I'm definitely getting that sort of like it's like the melon citrus in the nose for
A
sure.
little bit, yeah. It's very light, but it's there, and then like you get a little bit of that like jasmine rice, like floral quality on the back end.
Yeah.
There you go.
And like the rice, it lightens the body, but then it also adds its own kind of body to the beer as well. So like a pillowy kind of texture. I find you get a little bit of that as well.
And I'm getting a bit of kind of like lemon rind thing on that, like on the finish with that kind of zesty bit and that like kind of hit of bitterness that kind of stretches long in the finish.
Yeah, almost like a pithy kind of like a lemon pith.
Yeah.
Sort of. You get a little citrus from, like the sapphire as well, which I think I have like there's a bunch in the kettle and then a little bit in the whirlpool, just get a little bit more aroma from it, and I think the dry hop just sort of like brings it all together.
That's fantastic. This is great stuff, dude.
Yeah, very tasty.
Yeah, really, really cool. So what we're gonna kick off with is go through the story since neither of you guys have been on it before, and I think it kind of also sets for the conversation. So since we're starting off with the Lovebird beer, maybe Alex can go first and give us a bit of background, sort of how you got into beer, your brewing history, and sort of the general idea of how Lovebird came to be.
So I guess my beer journey, like I've always liked drinking European beers from like my friends would be drinking like Canadian or whatever. I'd pick the random weird stuff at the LCBO, and then I don't know. I fell like into craft beer. I think a little bit later than most people, like most of my friend group. Like I sort of just didn't pay attention, and then I think my wife introduced me a lot to a bunch of craft beer because she was working in the hospitality industry in Toronto, so she got to see a lot of these like craft beer brands coming through, especially like when Ace Hill and like Lost Crafts sort of like took over Toronto, and then BAOS was really big. So she got me like trying a whole bunch of different stuff, and then
Nice.
It wasn't really until we moved out of Toronto and I was looking for another job. I've sort of found this job for like a beer nerd application for a brewery in Brantford called Bell City, which I don't know if it exists anymore. But
No, they shut down. I remember, but I used to know Kevin, the British dude.
yeah, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah, so that's sort of where I got into. Like my background is in chemistry. Like I have a master's degree in chemistry, and I didn't know sort of what to do after. And I'm like, beers, chemistry, sort of. I'm like, there's probably some crossover skills here. So I'm like, I didn't want to go back to school, so I figured I could just learn on the job and work my way up, kind of thing. So started there at a small brewery, thinking I would be able to get into the back of production, but then they ended up putting me in the kitchen in the back, and so I got like sort of the whole runaround of front of house and back of house there. But then working there gave me the leverage to kind of apply to another brewery, and so I quickly got a job at Collective Arts in Hamilton, and then spent almost 3 years brewing there. So brewer and then lead brewer, and then went to Nickelbrook afterwards, just because the hours were a lot better. My family was starting to grow at the time, and doing the continental 12-hour-a-day shift work wasn't really working out.
Yeah.
A couple nights from falling asleep at the computer. So yeah, Nickelbrook was a bit more of a manageable schedule. Got weekends back, and I got to work like from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I still had my whole day ahead of me. And then they gave me a little bit of freedom to create some of my own beers as well, which is kind of fun.
Dope.
And then yeah, let's see. While working there, I guess I just sort of had the idea of like opening up my own spot, and my wife always came up to like the Collingwood, Thornbury area, like Grey County, Grey Highlands, and there was really nothing going on here, and we were sort of looking to move from Hamilton anyways, and so it's just a trifecta of things that brought us to the area, and we were thinking of opening up a little brewery or bottle shop up here, because I think it was during the pandemic, and I was like, bottle shops were becoming a thing, and I was like, this is a really cool idea. Like, I always wanted thought of a store where like, why can't you just sell a bunch of different craft beer in one spot? Like the liquor laws just didn't make any sense. So we toyed with the idea of like doing contracting or opening up our own facility, and like things just were taking way too much time to go down the brewery route at that point. Where like finding equipment was expensive, finding like a location was difficult, like zoning laws, which I'm learning about now, do not make it easy to fit a brewery into places, especially in small towns where they don't have any legislation for a brewery space. So it led us to the idea of doing the contract thing. So we started with that, and then once that started getting some traction, we sort of revisited the whole bottle shop idea. And then there was this building that we always loved in Thornbury, and we saw that it was up for rent. So we went to go check it out that evening, and then my wife and I were like, yeah, let's do it. We'll open it up here, and everything just sort of kind of evolved from there. And we're just sort of looking for a way to basically have our own customer engaging space, because like in the contract brewing route, like as we'll probably get into, it's pretty difficult. You don't really have control over how your stuff was presented out there, and we didn't. I don't know. We wanted to have more of our hands in how it was being represented and be able to share it with people face to face versus sort of disconnect of selling it to a bar, and then they might do a good job selling your stuff or not. You're just another can on the shelf kind of thing. And so, yeah, this was like a nice little baby step of like through the business development to sort of like start with the contract route and then open up like a little bottle shop bar, and then like next step will be to open up a brewery. Like we have our own equipment that we purchased from Muse actually when they upgraded with Barn Cat's old stuff. Yeah, rest in peace, Barn Cat.
Yeah, fuck.
But yeah, we're still looking for a space. Like zoning is the thing that's sort of crushing us now.
Huh. Interesting. Where are you contracting out of right now?
So right now, I'm contracting out of a brewery in Cambridge and one in Collingwood. So just sort of like playing off who's got the tank space. And actually, this year has been really good for us. We've grown a lot, and so we're brewing more frequently, which is really nice.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for that. That's a great summary. So, Michael, from Gather there, tell us your background, man. Same thing. How you got into beer, how what that journey looked like, and how Gather came to be.
It's probably not the most normal way of starting a brewery, but we actually are a glass blowing studio originally. So my dad started that business about 35 years ago now. Yeah, so I started blowing glass there when I was 6 years old, and fell in love with glass and the medium and everything about it. Went to Sheridan, Toronto, and took the glass blowing courses there. Studied in Seattle. Was working in the family business, and in 2012, my dad passed away. So I took over the business when I was 23 years old, which was very interesting. And it was a big business. I think we had 8 employees at the time. We were wholesaling glass to like 300 galleries in the United States and Canada. And it wasn't really exactly what I wanted to do in glass after going to school and learning all the different techniques and learning what I wanted to make as opposed to what my dad made. And so I've slowly been transitioning the business into more of what I want it to be. So over time, we've done more glassware, more like installation, sculptural kind of stuff. Unless we used to do like tons of like ornaments. We still make them, but we don't sell wholesale really anymore. So over time, we transitioned, and then about, I think it was 3 years ago now, we did a big renovation because the studio is in like an old bus garage, and then the actual gallery is like the house beside it. And so it's very much a house. So we knocked out a whole bunch of walls, made a cathedral ceiling, made this big, beautiful gallery space. And that was really great during COVID because everyone was flooding out to the small town from Ottawa. And, we did, for an artistic business during COVID, we did, pretty well. It was pretty scary to start. Yeah, but so we ended up doing a big renovation and making like a much nicer gallery space. And when we were doing that, we were like, we were getting more into glassware. We were making like some of our best selling stuff, just wine glasses, whiskey glasses, beer mugs, all that kind of stuff. So we were like, how cool it would be if we put a bar in and, people could walk around and shop, or if we have like gallery evenings and events, people can grab a glass of wine or a beer, walk around, shop and stuff like that. And it ended up going really well. And people loved it. You know, we'd be like, do you want to try out one of the glasses? Like, take it for a spin. So, you know, we started doing kind of like these happy hours every Friday night, and, you know, the community would come out, and like young and old. It's a small town. It's like probably about 1,200 people. So, you know, it's a really like strong local community, and we ended up, you know, doing really well with that. And yeah, that's kind of how that whole thing started. And then as far as beer goes, I got, you know, into craft beer probably around the BAOS kind of look tread time, getting into all that and everything, which I think is probably pretty common for most people.
Yeah.
Into it. Yeah. And I remember it was like 2018. I met with one of my friends being like, we should start a brewery. And we were just kind of like, we're poor. I don't know how we do that. Like, but it was a fun idea. So, you know, we thought about it back then. And then it was actually at my Dungeons and Dragons group. So I'm a dungeon master. So it's a really good core group of friends. We've been playing together for a long time, and we would even brew beer sometimes. You know, and then drink it at D&D and stuff like that. So I would always float around the idea of like, we should start a brewery. And then one of my friends, who's also Mike, was like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So that's kind of how it all started. And we announced it last year in November that we were closing Grey Art Glass, the glass blowing studio, and starting Gather Brewery and Glassworks. Then we started renovating in January. We opened the tap house in April, and then we had a first batch of beer from contract brewers in June. So it's been a wild ride.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is extra fast. I know we sort of all spoke about this sort of in the email, but it's really cool to hear it directly from you both, as far as like the way that it both came about. It's fascinating that like you end up at kind of the same spot, but just in completely different ways. I love this so much. And by the way, just we're all drinking out of Gather Glassware right now. So we'll be rocking that tonight.
I'm saving for the Gather beers.
Oh, see, Alex is thinking. He's thinking. So let's start with like all the like essentially the logistics and challenges of basically what you guys are doing. And I'm curious to really hear about like, you know, maybe Alex will start the logistics of I guess the brewery side. Like, you decided to go to contracting mostly because of zoning, right? There was just a zoning thing.
It was like Michael said, like it's expensive to open a brewery. Like it's very financially like restrictive sort of thing. Like you need to have everything up front, and then you got to do the licensing. And so like I toyed with the idea. I was calling places and being like, how much is your smallest brew house? So like, okay, this is expensive. Like, and I'm like, stainless steel is expensive. I'm like, maybe I'll just use barrels and just do everything out of wood, and just try to like build it down to the smallest scale that still made sense financially. And then, but even then, like you're trying to get that and source it and then find a place to do it. It's like, I didn't want to wait for all of that to fall into place. I just wanted to like get a product out there. Like my wife does all the branding and design. And so like we had the skills to get a product to the market, and contract brewing was just the fastest, most financially accessible way to do it.
Okay.
I sort of had reservations about the contract route at the start, because sometimes it can seem like it's just a marketing thing, and I wanted it to still feel like we were a craft brewery, like releasing like one-offs and doing all the things that a real brewery can do, but just have other breweries make it for us, sort of thing.
Right.
So I think I'm happy with the way it started and everything, but yes, what was the question again? The logistics?
Yeah, no, it was more just like I wasn't sure if you were what the reasoning for going to contract versus that, but that makes a lot of sense. So it's essentially like financially restrictive, which makes a lot of sense. And then you're just saying as well that now you've got the shop.
Mm-hmm.
All the zoning is like super difficult to be able to sort of like, hey, can we just stick a brewery in the back here? Because I guess you just can't just do that.
No, they all have different zoning regulations. And then even if, like, I was about to I was thinking of putting a brewery in the back of another bottle shop in a town like 20, 30 minutes away, because they had like a C2 commercial zoning, and the landlord thought that they could do anything there. And then so after talking with him and then sort of getting the go ahead, I then went to the municipality like, oh, actually you can't do that here. They're like, okay, do you have zoning for brewery? And like, no, you're gonna have to do an amendment. So then it's like, then you have to go through a whole process of like the zoning amendment. It's all these fines and fees, and then it's like you're not even guaranteed if they'll switch it for you. And then to do that on top of like renting out a space, like I don't know, the municipality can be very difficult to work with. I know there's like another brewery in town, Greyhounds, that was like trying to get up and going for years, and they had issues with the municipality as well. And so there can be like a lot of sort of like roadblocks along the way. And so opening up a bottle shop or restaurant, tap room, whatever our sort of like catch-all hybrid model is here, was sort of like the easiest next step to be able to have that tap room feel without actually having the brewery in the back kind of thing.
So one of the things you said to me when we first connected was and correct me if I'm misremembering this, but that you were like, oh, well, maybe what we could do is if we opened up a store, it could be a way for us to sell our own stuff. But the law was that you can't just sell one brand. You do, because it's showing a preference or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that is because, so my wife and I are both on our manufacturing license, which is the license that you need to be able to sell alcohol to licensees. And that whole process is strange on its own. But so we have a manufacturing license, and then we applied. So we set this up as a secondary business. The brewing is under a corporation. This is under sole proprietorship under my wife only. But because she's also in title on our manufacturing license, the AGCO sort of flagged it as like a
conflict of interest.
Yeah, like conflict of interest kind of thing, where they didn't want us to just like open up a shop and show bias to our own product, which like wasn't what we wanted to do anyways. Because like I found that there was a craft beer void in the area. Like I wanted to bring in stuff that I didn't see in other places here. So like that was already built into our model. But like, let's say you set it up under somebody else who isn't tied to your manufacturing license, then there's no like link. And so basically you could technically open up, like, as far as I'm understanding the AGCO laws, like if you are a brewery and then you set up a secondary business under somebody else's name who isn't attached to your manufacturing license, they can choose to sell whatever beer they want. If they want to sell just one beer, they're allowed to. Like I don't think other restaurants like are forced to sell a multitude of products. You can kind of like choose what you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. Only because we're both tied to the manufacturing license and this location as well. Like I'm under the license as like the manager, or day-to-day, whatever. So like because our names are on both, they sort of flagged it for like a conflict of interest. And so they basically just had to ask us a couple of questions of like what our intention was and if we were going to sell a variety of different products, and then like what they wanted, like an example of like a beer list of what we were going to sell. And I'll give you an idea of the breweries I want to work with, but it's always going to be rotating kind of thing. And so they were happy with that as long as we didn't show bias, and like we don't really show bias. Like our shelves have our beer plus other beers. Everything's priced accordingly the same. We don't show any favorites to anything. And so it's just a limitation on our license, but it doesn't affect how we operate in any way here, really.
Gotcha. So at the end of the day, it really did fulfill your goals because you wanted to sell stuff that you were filling the gap in the market to provide the breweries that you can't typically get in the area, which also allowed you an avenue to sell stuff.
People come here just to drink wine or just for the cocktails. Some people come just for our beer, so it's not only
it's a bar too.
Purpose. Yeah. Like we have a liquor license, so we have like a wine full of like a whole bunch of different wines, like Ontario International, like biodynamic wines and stuff, and try and source like everything we carry is not in the LCBO, obviously, because there's no point competing with that. And so we're just trying to offer a different variety for like the people in the area of what to get in terms of beverages.
Right. Okay. Amazing. What is, I don't know if either of you guys know the answer to this, but like I don't, and it's probably just naive, but I don't really see the problem with this thing. Like say, I don't know, name a brewery that has a space in Ottawa. Why can't an Ottawa brewery just rent a store and sell their own shit in Toronto? Like, why can't they do that? It's so anti-entrepreneurial to me. It's like, it makes me like feel like angry. I don't understand. It's like, could y'all like, do you guys know why you can't do that at all?
I called the AGCO about that when I was messaging you about that, Craig. Because I talked to Josh from Dominion City. We're trying to figure out how to continue our bottle shop. Yeah. So we're trying to continue our bottle shop. We started that before we had any of our beer in. And it's actually funny. It was basically because I found your podcast, started like finding out about all these new breweries, and I was like ordering stuff from Badlands, ordering stuff from Third Moon. And I was like, wait, we can just sell this here now, right? Because we were already doing that. Originally, we just started working with like Matron at the very start, just because I'd been to Picton, had Janky, was like, we got to get this in, and then now it's like around 30% of our sales, and we bring in beer from like all over the place, like Godspeed, all my friends, we have like their beer on tap too. So we were running into the same kind of issue where we're like looking at the license and we're like, oh my God, are we going to lose part of this business when we can brew in the back? So I called them and he rambled off stuff about the master framework and, kind of alluded that there might be a way to do it, but that he couldn't tell me how. So, it was a weird conversation. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I won't call back again about this. Yeah.
That's really frustrating. Like, because I imagine you were hoping that when you called it, there would be kind of, it seemed like there should be a straightforward answer to that. Like you'd hope that when going to ask a question like that, there would be a kind of like, here's what you'd need to do if you want to continue to do this once you open up a brew house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically.
And I feel like we've probably come to a conclusion of how we can figure it out. But it might even be like we're kind of going about all this stuff in the same way as we've been getting our licensing and doing all the different things throughout this like process where it's like you hit a wall and you have to pivot and kind of figure it out a little bit differently. It's been like that the whole time, even from the start when we had our big glass blowing studio space. We built a wall down the center, put in a garage door, finished the other side. So it's like brewery and glass blowing studio. We had to get all the like approval from the town for that and everything. We've had to pivot a couple times with everything. So even if when we finally get our manufacturing license, we have to, move all the beer down into the fridge in the basement and not sell it for a bit while we figure out how we can do it and keep everybody happy at the AGCO. We'll do that, but, in talking with Josh, I think we kind of figured out some ways that, that you can go about it that everybody's happy with. And it's also just about communicating with your local AGCO person because they are all different and they can kind of regulate things differently. Right. So
interesting.
I imagine that Josh probably had some good insights on that because they have navigated the that kind of route before with their whole setup with the corner store. That they have, and I know that they even ran into some complications with the AGCO, because they do operate a bottle shop where they sell other breweries' products, and for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't been to the corner store at Dominion City, that what they ran into was a whole thing of at the corner store is where they've got the fridges of all of Dominion City's beers and their city seltzer and whatnot. They used to have their other breweries stuff in another section of the same fridge. But due to a weird AGCO thing, they actually had to move the other breweries' products to the other side of house at into a fridge in the tap room. They could still sell it, but they have to sell it out of there. They couldn't sell it out of the same fridge that that holds their own stuff. It seems incredibly specific and incredibly arbitrary, and that's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, exactly. And we've even on that, just from hearing, I think I heard that story on here originally. So we've even just we'll build a wall, and put in a set of double doors. If they need separation from bottle shop to tap house and we need two different beer fridges, that's fine. We could easily deal with that, So I think it's just navigating that, figuring out how to make it work, We just got our excise license, so I just sent in our samples to the LCBO. We're waiting on that, and then we can finally apply for manufacturing license. So we're not there yet where we've been dealing with it, but we've been at it for a while. The excise tax takes a long time.
Wow, God, just hearing about this is just what a nightmare, man. I think it's what I said to you, Michael. Is I'm fairly sure it might have something to do with a separate entrance because I haven't been back to Dominion and seen that, but I think Nate, you might have alluded to something that you go around a different side of the other side of the building if you turn left on that street at the back,
Exactly.
and a separate entrance, and that's a different street number technically, so therefore the license to sell like Lovebird and like Gather do sell other products is attributed to that physical address, even if it's in the same building and it's owned by the same people. Maybe they had to do the thing what you were saying, Alex, where they put different names on the whatever the license or whatever it is, so to get it through.
It could be set up as like a separate business and it's called the corner store. Then they have like a restaurant liquor license. And so it would have to have like the way the AGCO regulates it and decides where you can sell alcohol, you need a floor plan and like a footprint of it. So
Right.
if it's a separate business, but then the product of that business is then sold in the same fridge as the Dominion City stuff, like then that causes confusion. So then you need to have like a physical separation and a different floor plan that's licensed differently. And so that could it's like living in a weird world that doesn't make any sense. Like the liquor law. It's like, why can't I make a beer? You license that it's a safe product, and I just like sell it to somebody, but I have to go through this whole like insane like back and forth stuff that like doesn't really make sense.
It all feels like I remember during the pandemic I learned about the laws in Quebec when we were still in Montreal, and it was from 1928, which is literal the Depression and literal prohibition, and the same laws that the breweries were operating in almost 100 years ago were happening now. And
yeah, I think it's the same thing in Ontario.
It's the same thing. It's so mind-boggling to me. Like I don't understand who that benefits. Like I don't, aside from keeping jobs in a bureaucracy, like I don't see, and like they're encouraged to be inefficient. So like I won't say names, but multiple people here, and obviously you mentioned Alex, you lived here in Hamilton. Multiple people at breweries have told me in this summer alone, like horror stories about how bad the Hamilton bureaucracy is. Like the default answer is no, and it's just like the the stories that these people have told me just to get through, and the shit that they have, you could tell them when they're telling me, you could tell their physiology is changing. They're getting mad recounting the story because it was so frustrating. So I imagine like you also saying, Michael, the different AGCO people that depends who you get. Like you can get lucky and get one cool cat who'll give you the real info. Go, nah, man, look, don't do that. Come with me. Don't worry. You know, this is what you do. I'll push it through. I'll go call her. I know her, so I'll get that done. You know, shit like that. Yeah. Which is like, that shouldn't be like that. It's
no, it shouldn't.
The discouragement of businesses provide tax revenue, and they also provide employment, which provides tax revenue. So doesn't all of that, should the default answer be yes, and let's just make sure it's all good and people don't die? Like fucking, I was just in Savannah, Georgia. You can drink in the streets. I didn't see one dead body from alcohol in the street. So I kind of think it's okay, guys. Las Vegas, people are there all the time. Like all these, it's so ridiculous.
Well, you can like go around and like smoke all the marijuana you want, but like I can't like walk around and drink one beer. It's like seems, and that's because like the laws are new and like behavior around alcohol changed in the last 100 years. It's changed in the last 5 years, and like the laws have been updated, and to like do an overhaul or change it would take forever and be insane, and nobody would be down for that.
So
it's a thing like the way it strikes me, and like. Tell me if you guys like agree, or because you're obviously closer to it than I am. But like how what strikes me, and like the marijuana thing is a very good point. And like you said, Alex, like it's because those are new laws, so they were kind of like written from scratch in a way that like I mean kind of makes sense. I don't I don't know all of the specifics about the weed laws, but like, you know, it seems like it was that it was drawn up a way because you're kind of starting from scratch, whereas alcohol, like, you know, you've been able to sell alcohol in Ontario for a very, very, very long time, and like you say, like a lot of these laws date back to the 20s or 30s. And it's a thing of the laws, the way they were, probably made sense at that time. But like craft breweries certainly weren't a thing at that time. Small scale operations weren't a thing. And the laws have certainly not evolved to accommodate for that in a way that really makes sense, as if they were being written from scratch. And obviously, nothing. I mean, the Master Framework Agreement, it might be an example of something being thrown out, and but like it's still not done in a way where as if it's being written from scratch, kind of like, let's tailor these laws to the operation of small craft breweries. Like, that's not really a thing.
Yeah. I remember, dude, this is really interesting for me because I hadn't thought of it in that context, like that framing of the new laws with weed. Even just if you look at I don't smoke weed, but I have the gummies. I'm a fan of the gummies. In Quebec, they won't even sell the gummies because they're worried about children or something. I'm almost like, fucking put it in the drawer away from them. It's not that hard, dude. Like I don't understand that. But I can do mail order weed, and I did that like once a month or two. But I can't get mail order beer from anywhere. Like it's all like everything. And I think they only passed the law, and if I might have the dates wrong, but there was a law against cool ships and having growlers, and I think it only changed in like 2018 from the 1920s to allow Quebec. And that's when Brett Sauvage in Gaspé opened up, and they could finally do, the first thing they did was just get the cool ship and get it going. But prior to that, you couldn't even have it. Like it's so I don't know. I think I'm a bit naive. Like I have a problem with lack of logic. If it doesn't make sense, it's like it's anger. It makes me angry. I don't get it. So all of this is so silly. So then why is it difficult? This is my complete naivety to bureaucracy, I guess. But why is it so difficult to change it? Like I don't see any stakeholders having oh man, we need to keep these laws in check. Like, is someone getting money from it that are there kickbacks or something that there's people making too much money to change it, or like what's the deal?
I think it's just easier not to change it, because then to change it, then you have to pay somebody to do the research into what needs to be changed, and then you need to set up a panel of people to discuss how they're going to change it and how they should change the laws. And then there's going to be like a gray area of like something not happening, or it'll either take like 3 years of this committee, and then in the end they're going to find that they don't want to change anything. So like, I don't know. It seems that like it takes a really long time to change bureaucracy and laws, and like this isn't like a pressing issue. It's not something that's going to change the world. It does affect a lot of small businesses and small entrepreneurs, and it would be easier with a little bit more freedom instead of like laws written 100 years ago for like big business to basically protect them against like controlling the market. Right now, like I feel like the market needs to be opened up a little bit and make it easier and more accessible for more people who want to contribute to it and to the choice of products out there. But like, unless they overhaul everything, because like it seems like putting the Band-Aid like solutions on top of a system that's already broken isn't going to fix anything. It just will make it more confusing, I think.
And you can probably bet that the AB InBevs and the Molson Coors of the world, who have a lot of lobbying power, it's probably in their interest for things not to change.
That's what I was alluding to. Was there somebody?
Fellas, we should crack the next beer. I completely drained that good things because it was so damn delicious.
That was, and speaking of damn delicious, we have
good.
A damn good lager.
I'm gonna go grab mine.
Yes, go grab it. So this is a glorious lager from Uncle Michael there, has the excise number on there. Love to see it. 5.3%. This is funny because it's all relevant. It's all relevant now. Michael, tell us about this beer, brother.
So I wish I could speak to the brewing of this beer in the same way that Alex was able to with his, but he has, way more brewing experience than I do, and even just how far we ended up being from actually being able to brew, there with them. So basically, we went to our contract brewer and asked them for like a super clean, crisp, simple like American lager, and we sent back and forth ideas and some like recipes and stuff like that, and landed on this. So honestly, I wish I knew more about what it went into brewing it, but for us it's everybody's favorite beer that we've produced so far. We sold out like very quickly when we got our first batch.
Love it.
And overall, it's it's just a really tasty lager.
Fantastic. Smells
It's
great.
not my normal go-to. I'm an IPA man, so I've only actually drank a couple of them really, but the customers in our area, especially with our older clientele, they love it. But I think that's one of the things as far as contract brewing goes. Like we really lucked out. We were brewing with Jordan and Napanee Brewery, and he's great brewer.
They're closing.
Yeah, they're closing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, like next week, I think. So,
Oh gosh.
He's got one more of our beers coming out before they close, and we just picked up another big brew of our lager. But yeah, we're looking for new contract brewers now. So, yeah. So we didn't have as we didn't have as much input on everything, but we put a lot of trust in him, and he came out with some really, really good beers, which was huge for us because when we transitioned into having the the tap house and the gallery, we kind of shortened down our space we had for glass. So it has affected sales on that front a little bit. So when we first started out and we were just a tap house, even if we had great beer from all over, everybody was kind of like waiting for us to do a grand opening and get our first like beers out there, So in a lot of ways, it's like the same thing that Alex has been talking about, just trying to figure out how to make it work. So we started getting really busy after we did our grand opening in June, after we had like our lager, our blonde, and our IPA come out. We sold them in cans out of the fridge and on draft and did really well. And that was like the same thing. We ordered 1,000-liter batches of all three of them right off the hop. They're all ready like around the same time. And within like a month, they're all sold out, and we didn't have more beer. So it's like,
right. So you gotta. I guess
work out with the brewery. They're like, what do you guys have on tap this year? We're like, nothing, just other people's beers. Yeah,
that's a good problem to have, dude. Because I guess it's better that than have too much.
Definitely. But it's one of those things where they're like, hey, you want to do 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000? It's like, I guess 1,000. That seems like a lot of beer. So, but turns out it's not really. Yeah.
Good to know. Well, on that note, gentlemen. Get that in you. Cheers.
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 Great nose. Love it. Yeah, man. Clean. I mean, Napanee do their black lager is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
They're like it's a great brewery to do a crispy from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. This is really smooth. Like I'm getting like a honey.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a nice little honey bready nose to it. Yeah, it's just there's a reason why it did so well for us. I think it's especially even the IPA he brewed for us. It was like on the lighter side. It was very approachable. I think if we came out of the gate with like a super thick, Badlands style hazy IPA, I think a lot of people would have been like, whoa, what's this, But what he actually brewed for us was like fairly like light. And I think that actually played into our favor because a lot of people, I think they were coming in for the first time and having like a hazy IPA just because they wanted to try our beers and, they were trying that for the first time. So it was quite approachable for a lot of people, which was cool to see, because we often have something like Third Moon or Badlands on tap. So it's a little bit of a different thing, right?
It's probably good to feel out the market a little bit too, being that like I imagine there's probably not a lot of immediate. There's no breweries in Merrickville, right, or any businesses like okay, and the closest towns are
Smith Falls and Kempville, and there's a brewery actually being built in Kempville right now.
Okay.
And Smith Falls has what's it?
4 degrees or something.
Yeah, 4 degrees. Yeah, and then there's Perth has 2 breweries. They're like the kind of closest ones. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more like I would imagine then if for a town that has no breweries, whilst there are some nearby, then there'll be people who literally can drive down the street to you and they'll be excited that there's a new local and then there's going to be a different sort of demo on potentially like obviously there's the craft beer nerds who want the Badlands and Third Moon, but then you're going to have maybe, some more less experienced craft beer people who might want something else. They want to support. They want to drink your stuff.
Yeah.
So it probably is a good way to kick it off. And then you can like, if you're able to find someone like all my friends, I guess, or Fine Balance, if they got space and they do contracting. I actually don't know if any of them do.
I don't know. Neither one of them do. I feel like those guys are so busy doing their own thing. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, so our plan, going forward, will probably be to contract out our, our lager, our blonde, and our pilsner, and then in-house brew hazies. Because I mean, that's what my favorite thing is to do, and my favorite thing to drink. And quick turnaround time, keep a couple taps of our own on, and then get the bigger batches done in another brewery that take longer in the tanks. Our system is 350 liters, and we have 2 fermenters and 1 bright tank. So it's a very small system. We got everything for under $30,000. So, we'll be able to kick off and start brewing and get going, and, get the longer, the stuff that's going to sit in the tank for longer. I think these were in the tank for 4.5 weeks. So, we can cycle through some IPAs and move some stuff like that. But one of the interesting things, like, since it is the older community, we kept on getting asked to put like a red ale on, and we were like, I was like, I didn't even know people drank those anymore. Like, I hadn't had one in 5 or 6 years. And then everyone kept on asking, and we put on the red long sleeve from Slake, which is
that's killer though. The autumn lager,
super good. But it's hilarious because it was like in the spring we put it on, and it's like a long sleeve red shirt, right? But yeah, when we just crushed, like, it's amazing. It aside from our beers, if it's on, it'll always be the next best selling thing.
No shit.
So, yeah,
that's good intel.
Yeah, it was interesting. So we actually have the last beer we have being done by Napanee is an amber lager, which I think will go over well with people. So yeah,
that's dope. That's smart. And that's really cool that you're able to even, it's almost like now, and I'd be curious on your side too, Alex, it's like you're doing market research via the other brands, and then you're realizing that people love this particular style, which surprised you. So then you're like, well, I guess that means we make, whether it's a Vienna, an amber lager, whatever you call it, then you're able to go and execute on that. That's such a sick benefit of the businesses that you both have. Like, that's cool. I don't know, is that like, it's pretty dope to me. I never even thought of that, like using the other brands as market research for your own brand. And while you're not really competing with them because you're not going to stop selling them, it's like you're able to like sort of massage the lineup with your own stuff that's sort of hitting what the target market wants, while filling the gaps, maybe potentially, it depends how it goes down the track, with the things that perhaps you don't want to make under the Gather brand.
Yeah, exactly. And the first time we actually got to execute, so it's been so much work launching the brewery, launching the tap house, getting everything going. We're slowly starting to amalgamate the 2 businesses together. Like the actual, so Gather comes from, people gathering together in the tap house, and like, the brewery being part of the community, Grey Art Glass Blowing Studio. Like we've been there for so long. We're a huge part of the community. And then gathering is actually the act of like gathering the glass out of the furnace. So every time we go and take glass out of the furnace, that's called gathering. So it worked with like both of those things. And in my business plan that I had to write for the excise tax license, we've got tons of fun stuff coming down the pipeline for all the different ways we're amalgamating the glassware, the glass blowing, and the beer together. Even like our mug club, we made this huge, awesome beer stein. You get your name like engraved on it. When you come in, you get like a 20-ounce pour for the cost of a 16-ounce pour. Nice. We just did like a mystery mug night where I spent like a week making all these like insane mugs, like Das Boot and all these different crazy mugs, and they were all in bags with question marks on them, and you just had to come in and be like, I guess I'll take this one, and then you unwrapped it and they filled it up with whatever you wanted, and you got to take it home with you. So we're working on more awesome, fun glass blowing stuff, and amalgamating the 2 businesses together. And it was nice with the Pilsner that we'll have later, that we were able to make like our Czech style Pilsner mug to go with it and launch them at the same time. So it's definitely, this guy right here
that we all have.
Yeah. Which I love. It's like my favorite glass to drink out of home right now. It's so good. It's a ton of water too, if you need it to be.
This is my favorite too. Like this is a sexy glass.
Yeah.
I know glassware is not like what we're super digging deep on tonight, but something that I have to point out that I fucking love about about the mugs, about the
handle,
the Czech pills and the tankard, is these beefy handles on here.
I'd call them girthy.
If the glass ever breaks, the handle will stay together, and the
I
rest
believe
of the glass will break. The handle, like I've broke them before, and it's like the handle always stays together.
Just hold it.
Yeah. I've been making these mugs since I was like 16 years old, so I've made thousands of handles and got really, really good at making them.
That's amazing.
that.
The other thing I really love about these glasses, just on that note, is they're bigger than the average glass. Like, say, this is probably the one I use, aside from the crispy one, the one I use the most, like the IPA glass.
Yeah.
Because I can pour it aggressively to get some of the carb out and get a bigger head. But it's not going to go like pour, like the Spiegel glasses that are a lot more delicate. They're beautiful, but they just fit it. Whereas like this, I can take a tall boy and go a little harder, and it's not going to spill over the top. And that's something that I really appreciate about the sizing. Was that intentional, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, we would be making glassware and pouring cans into them and trying to figure out exactly what size we wanted to make to be on tap as opposed to be sold like in the store, because you don't want to make a huge glass that if someone pours a can into, it doesn't fill up all the way, right? You want it to like kind of work out perfectly, right? But like I pour the exact same way, and so we would just be doing that and testing it out. And then it is tricky because everything is not the same width. Everything's all like they're all different, right?
Because they're handmade. Yeah,
exactly. Like even in the tap house, to mark the 16 ounces, we actually mark every single glass with a Dremel, so there's a little line on it, so when you're pouring you can fill it up right to the line and then finish with some head, but that way we know how much we're serving.
Is that kind of what this business is, right? Like right here, I kind of see like the line going across there where the crackle stops.
That's it's tool marks. So that's from taking the tool we use to open the glass up at the top called jacks. And like I love tool marks on glass. Some people don't like them because it shows the craftsmanship of it, but like I like it because it shows the craftsmanship of it, right? So
it's gorgeous.
I don't mind if there's tool marks,
I think it's gorgeous.
I love them.
It looks like this doesn't even strike me as tool marks. Like it looks intentional because it's almost like it almost looks like it's kind of a dividing line between like where the crackle stops and it kind of like, and there's this clean band along the top like that. Like that's really dope.
Yeah, no, I think it's super cool. To bring the other convo to a close from before, on your side, Alex, just like Mike was saying that he's able to do the essentially the market research on what his patrons are coming in asking for, then being able to make that. Have you found anything similar like that at all?
A little bit. I mean, I'll just sort of brew whatever I kind of like to brew and like to drink, and I'll see like what's out there in the market, and then I'll, like you said, like try and fit in the gaps and stuff. But like I don't know, lately I just sort of stuck with lagers a lot. Like that just. I'll go with whatever inspires me kind of thing versus like, I know I should be brewing more of what sells, but like, I know there's, especially for our shop, like there's so many good breweries that make like those big hazy IPAs that like, I'll just carry their stuff. And first and foremost, like most of our business relies on like licensees. So like I have to think about like approachability, where somebody's going to be drinking my beer, how they're going to be drinking it, what they're going to want if they're having it with a meal or if they're at a restaurant or a bar. Cause like, most of our stuff does really well at like wine focused restaurants. And so I try and think about how the consumer is going to be experiencing the beer. And that tends to be like more lower ABV stuff. So like the heaviest beer we ever brewed was like a 5% pale ale, and everything sits around like the 4% mark, like either 4.5 or like 3.6 for like our Alsatian grisette. And so I'll just sort of, I should listen to the market research, but I like going against that and kind of just putting out something that's different, because like I can see a lot of what's happening, and then I'm like, oh, but like I can't find this beer, so I'm like, I'll just brew that myself and then put that out. Kind of thing. And then there's been a few things I just wanted to get out, being like a brewer. It's like, and not having that outlet before, now I kind of can do whatever I want and brew whatever I want. So it's fun to be able to sort of take those ideas out and put them out there. And so far they've been working. So
dope. So it's both like, it's kind of like different approaches that both work really well.
Yeah.
And
it's definitely a good thing, because like it's interesting to see like what people go and reach for, and like sometimes I'm wrong. Like when I first stocked out the fridge, I'm like, oh, I gotta get like all my friends, I gotta get like these big hazy beers, and like I gotta these are great beers, people want them. And then like up here, no one was really going for them. There's like maybe a handful of people reaching for it. Most people wanted like just a pale, easy drinking lager like a Kolsch or like a cream ale kind of thing. Sours a little bit more in the summer, more when like tourists are up in the area looking for more sour beers. So it's really it was sort of interesting to see what I
Yes, and
thought people wanted at first. It's not necessarily what the area wanted. So like having to like tailor beer styles for the region has definitely been interesting and fun. And then also getting to know like what certain like customers want, like having like regulars come in, and I know that they like an American style like IPA, like hop hugs from like Tooth and Nail, which like I don't see any Tooth and Nail here. So I'm just like, someone really enjoys that. I'm like, okay, I gotta stock more like West Coast or American style like IPAs for like this group of people. And then like I know this one person likes a good sour, so like the fine balance like gelato sours like sold like crazy here, and
so good.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Okay.
cool to see like what people gravitate towards, and in every region, everyone has their own sort of different beer styles that they go for. And I don't know. I'm just gonna do my own thing and brew the beers that I find interesting that I don't see out in the market, or just try something different.
Gotcha. That's sick. Yeah, it's like you guys have got and the more you expanded on that, the more it actually became similar to Michael's answer. Then it's just in a different way. Love it. This is fascinating. And you did mention licensees, which kind of like is a good segue into the next thing. So obviously you're both doing contracting currently. As far as like, I wonder if you just speak to like sort of how that's worked for you guys, some of the positives of it, and maybe some of the challenges of contracting. Obviously, you can both sell the things that you contract out of your own front door, which is awesome. I guess multiple pronged question, like are there any restrictions on that side for either of you guys? And then how's it been? I guess, you know, you're both relatively new to the game. How has it been with you know, landing licensees in this kind of environment right now, and landing your products perhaps in other stores similar to what you guys offer, or bars, or whatever it may be? How's that been for you both? Whoever wants to go.
Go ahead, Alex.
So let's see. Yeah, the whole contract thing. So like, yeah, with licensees, it's been good. Like, it's definitely hard as like a newcomer getting into like those spots, because some people are definitely very open to trying a new beer, and like, especially like bottle shops, they always want to carry something new and something different. So they'll pick up a couple of cases and stuff like that. Some restaurants, they have like their go-to diehards, and like they're not going to shift from that. And some people are a bit more open. So it's been good and bad, but I feel like it you just need them to like try the beer. And so like getting a product in hand, because like some people will just like judge right up front. It's like, well, if you're a new brand, how are my consumers gonna respond to you? If they don't know who you are, they're not gonna buy your beer, and it's just gonna sit for me to even pick you up, kind of thing. And so that's when like the relationship building, I think, really comes into play when finding licensees. Being able to meet with someone who's going to be making the decision, trying the beers with them, going through the explanation of what makes our beer different than somebody else's beer, or how we're producing it, definitely helps. Because then in turn that gives them more knowledge to then pass on to the consumer who's in the restaurant, who's going to be purchasing beer. And then if they can then transfer that story that you've told them onto their consumer, they have a bigger connection to your product, or they want to give it a shot, and then it sort of builds from there. And so we've had a lot of licensees. Like, we first started out pretty big, and like just sort of did a bigger blanket when we first opened up, and then a lot of the licensees sort of stuck with us through everything. Some of them were just 1-time or 2-time purchases, but like the ones that have really stuck with us have been doing really well with our product, and it's selling more and more in all their establishments. And so it's been like a slow growth, especially without having like a physical place for people to come. Because I find that like if you have a brewery, then people know, okay, let's go to that spot, let's go to the brewery, we'll try other beers, and so it's like a place to bring people in. When you don't have that gathering spot to bring people together,
Nice.
it's more difficult for someone to sort of build a connection to your brand. And I think that's how brands sort of succeed, is connecting with community, especially with beer, because it is such a social beverage, a social product, a social thing to do. And so yeah, it has been limiting in that sense of not having a space, and that's been, I think, maybe one of the challenges in operating strictly through a contract brand. which was like opening this spot up has definitely helped out because I'm like I have so many people who come and see like, oh, they tried our beer at so and so place and they want to come check us out here, and then I'm able to kind of go through the beers with them and connect them more with the brand, which helps out a lot.
Would the bar almost kind of like operate as home base, being that I would gather that you have
Oh my god,
we're gonna do this, but Alex started it. I would imagine that you would have all the Lovebird beers on tap there so that people could come in and know that, hey, I'm going into Lovebird to get stuff and I can drink their beers on tap there. So it's almost like a quasi tap room.
Yeah, like we wanted it to be like our tap room, but it's just, again, through the laws, this was the only way that we could legally sell someone our beer. And like, so we have to, so it's two separate businesses. So I have to sell myself the beer
Your
to
own beer.
sell it to you, which
Right.
is again the bizarro world of like the alcohol laws in Ontario. It's like, I don't know why do I need a manufacturing facility to be able to then open up a space to sell the beer product? It seems very prohibitive in that sense. Where it's like, I need like $500,000 to then, or $1 million to build out a place to then sell you a pint. So this was sort of like our workaround while still operating legally in Ontario law framework to be able to have our own headquarters without having to find $1 million to build a brewery.
Yeah,
Totally. So then on your side, Mike, what's that look like for you, dude? Like as far as license, I mean, I know you're probably a bit earlier in than Alex is as far as, but have you had any sort of like conversations with people trying to, I guess you've probably only done cans too. Did you ever do kegs or not yet? Of the contracting stuff specifically.
So yeah, so we've gone to restaurants, we talked to people just in being there, stuff like that. We've got places that are definitely interested in carrying our beer, especially if they came by and tried, the lager or something like that. They know it would sell well for them. I don't know how much of that we will do in the future. It'll depend on how much beer we can produce and how much we can sell in house. I definitely, we want to be as tap focused as we possibly can, because that's where we make the most money on it, and like I've been very happy just moving our product, in cans out of the fridge. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it all pans out. But we haven't set anything up like that. And I haven't made any moves like that because we don't even have the manufacturing license yet. So it's one of those things where I'm usually completely, splitting up my time between applying for licenses and figuring stuff out, managing the company, still blowing glass and producing glass, and doing anything else we need done around the building, right? So we haven't even really started working on that front. It's probably good for business in general to get it into a couple restaurants in the area and get your name out there. But I think we'll only do it if we basically had like a surplus of beer. As of now, we've never had a good enough surplus of beer. But we've talking to a couple different contract brewers, but even they have the most I've got out of anyone so far would be like a tank a month. So 2,000 to 3,000 liters a month, which is not, even if we're brewing a good amount in house, it probably wouldn't be enough to sell to restaurants and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So you prefer we'll see. I'm not familiar with the whole thing and how it works. So it could be something we tackle in the future. But I think the big focus right now is to get up and brewing, get our thing going, have at least 4 of the taps with our beer. And then once those are full and staying full more often, move towards that.
Gotcha. I guess that makes sense. And I know that's obviously the dream as far as moving product mostly out of the tap room, because that's where everybody makes their largest. So I guess they take that away from you on your side, Alex, because you don't get that because you have to sell it to us. But then
it's all one stream. It all goes into
the same
pocket in the end. So it's I have to sell myself the keg, but then
it's the same.
We make a good margin off of the keg here in our business, but then it'll be on both. So it's I'm just paying myself.
Right. It's like a transaction. Yeah. It's
I'm just paying HST twice, essentially.
Essentially. Hey, Doug Ford needs it.
Double money off of us. But
Gotcha. Okay, so that's one of the biggest prohibitive things for contract brew. I always feel because, like, I don't know if you guys were how deep you were in the beer game. It sounds like maybe Michael, you were kind of like us as far as a drinker, but Alex, you would have been working in it. But when we started the podcast, like we started in 2015, there was like this fucking hatred for contract breweries that, like,
What a time.
dude, it was. Do you guys remember
I
that?
was scared to start as a contract brand because I was still had
No,
like
you
I still felt that stigma was in the air. And I'm like, what if people
Mm.
don't take us seriously because we're a contract brand? And it's just like,
I messaged you that, Craig. Do you remember that? I was like, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Alex.
No,
like
no,
the
you-
exact same thing. The exact same thing. I was like, I know it's going to be contract and it's not like as legit, you know.
but I feel like that was such a 9-10 years ago thing, and
Yeah.
that did continue for a while. It was like you mentioned earlier, Alex, because like Lost Craft, like Shahan's a good friend of mine, and like we started at the same time, and we met in 2015, so we were like good friends, and he got so much shit from the industry, kept calling him marketing brand, and I feel like a lot of people owe him an apology because he owns a physical space, multiple brands, a distillery in there as well, like cider, he does everything. And it's like this dude always cared about beer. Now, I don't want to shit on Ace Hill, I don't know them, but I'm pretty sure they sold, and they were just some dudes who owned a series of bars. I forgot what the brand was that they owned. That was a marketing play. I own a business. I don't give a fuck, and I also run a craft beer podcast. I don't give a fuck. If you want to do that, do it, because business is business. Like, I don't care if you want to sell your brewery and make $500 million. Good for you. I would do that. But I feel like there was this sort of like purist thing. Like, I was never, and I could probably speak for Nate here as well. Neither of us. Haven't been into beer for 25 years. It's only been since 2011 for me personally, maybe 2010. But the people who've been into beer since the 90s have this little more like purist attitude. Completely understand it. I'm like that with rap music. I grew up on that, and it wasn't popular when I got into it, but then now it's pop. So I like things a certain way, and I understand from the people who do. But that's where they were coming from, and if you don't have a bricks and mortar, then you're not real business. But I'm like, well, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to put $1 million into this space, and then the business falls flat because you didn't get to build the brand via contracting first. There's so many phenomenal contracting success stories out there.
Yeah.
I never understood the hate for it, and I kind of feel in 2024, over the last, I don't know, at least couple of years, I feel like it's kind of disappeared. There's probably like some residual hatred for that shit, but I kind of don't think it matters anymore.
There's always going to be the kind there's always going to be the kind of person who like with a purist attitude who finds something to hate about everything.
Yeah,
but I think you're right that the stigma of that has very much subsided. That was a very moment in time thing in the mid 2010s. But yeah, and to your point, it's a thing of like, I think there's a better understanding now of how there are different ways to approach this business, and there's different and there's kind of different paths to to success and different paths to making a good product, and there's less there's less judgment on how this is the one one and only way to do it. And the thing that I would say to anyone who still holds that viewpoint back from back in 2015, to think of if you're the only way to do it is to do a bricks and mortar, and if you're and you don't care about craft it, if you're doing contract or whatnot, is not every bricks and mortar brewery makes very good beer. Some of it is shit. Truthfully, just because you have a bricks and mortar location doesn't mean you're making good beer. And we can that can be evidenced by a lot of bricks and mortar locations that have closed over the past decade. Lots of good ones have closed over the past decade, but a lot of shit ones have closed as well. And and some just and some seem to just get by on luck. It's this shit is not black and white.
Yeah.
Well said, bro. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a funny thing, we're seeing breweries closing, in the past couple of years, and especially right now. And Craig, who was the guy that was on your last podcast from Florida?
Kevin from Barrel
Yeah.
Next.
When he was talking about like what he would do now, just like starting a very small brewery, being part of the community, getting people to walk down the street and buy from you and do that whole thing. Like, it was funny. I was like listening to it and it's all this doom and gloom about the brewery industry. And I'm like, oh, and then he described that. And I was like, oh, cool. He just described like what we're going for. So that's good. But like, would people rather that we took out $1 million loan at like 9.5%, like, or 11%, whatever the hell it is right now, and built like a massive brewery setup and then had to like, run it and do the whole thing. When we show people our little brewery setup, and the tanks are quite cute, 350 liters. It's not like you see in some places, but I think that's one of the things that's happening right now in the industry is that people took on these big loans, like COVID, all these things happened. They just more space. And then I was just at the Ontario Craft Brewers meeting there at Dominion City, and a couple of breweries are like, oh, we're downsizing our brew house. We're making less beer. It's going to be a more efficient setup and stuff like that. So it's like definitely an interesting time, but starting with contract brewing and starting with a small system, I think it's like a really good way to go right now. And if we ever blow through our system and we're like, oh wow, we could do better than this, we could go up to 5 or 7 barrels. Like we would do that at the time, but we basically opened the whole setup and didn't take out a loan at all for it, and I think that's like what's happening right now. I mean, landlords are raising rent or selling buildings as well. That's like a huge part of it. But I do think a lot of people took on some big loans, and with the idea of expanding, and and now the need has gone down a little bit, and they're kind of like stuck with it, right? So it's tricky.
Yeah.
But one more reason that you should not look down on contract brewing is that like anyone starting a brewery right now probably isn't building like a massive system and taking a $2 million loan, right?
Yeah, it's
that would seem like a very wild gamble in 2024.
very wild. And I feel like now hearing all you guys talk about this as well, my thought was perhaps that the hatred or whatever the criticisms of contract brewing was coming at a time where we were peak hype beer boom. Everything was crazy. Everyone was opening a second brewery. Everyone was coming out. It's going nuts. And then we're looking at it now through a lens of we just came out of a pandemic. Everyone got fucked. Everyone's downsizing, as you just said, Michael. Like I didn't know about that. That makes a lot of sense too. So people are probably starting to realize, I think before people, maybe even some people in the business didn't realize beer is a business, and then there is financial considerations that need to be made. And that if you look at it from a factual marketing perspective, building a brand in a market via contracting, as long as you can have a good contractor, and if you're a hustler and you get out there and you go to the LCBOs and you go to the licensees and you're knocking on doors and you're doing what you got to do, you can build, and you're doing events and you're sponsoring events and you're going to festivals, you're doing everything you can. You could build a pretty strong brand before you even open a contract facility. So Shahan told me, and I think he might have said it on air, that like it makes more sense for him to contract, even though he has a physical space, he still contracts some of the larger brands, because he's like, I cannot make that beer for anywhere close to what I'm paying for it. From wherever I don't know where he gets it done now, but that's what he told me a while ago. I don't know if that was true as of right now, but he did say at one point, I think when he got it, I was like, oh, you're going to stop the contract? He goes, well, I'm going to make all the other stuff in-house, but the big brands will make him here, which is kind of what you said, Michael, with the lagers, and you do the haze in-house because of just like economies of scale. Like the breweries are getting it done. They've got the facilities that are worth so much more than the facilities that he has. And I know he used to do it at what's it called, Brunswick, and if at Ace Hill and Lost Craft were the two, if you looked up, it was like 3 stories high fucking fermenters. They were their ones, and they were just running through it. And I imagine that the quality control that they had the brewmaster from the Trap in Belgium out there, so they had some pretty high quality stuff. So I know that the end product was exactly what he wanted, so it made sense. That's a business decision. It's got nothing to do with the quality of the beer or whether the owner of the company cares about beer. Like, people are assuming that, and I just feel like maybe that was like the old world, the more purist cats who were kind of, there's newer people into beer now who don't have those preconceptions. And it's just kind of, I feel like it's been a bit nicer since all of that. Like I feel like there's less sort of spattering and like nonsense and bickering and shit.
You know
And
what's
now
wild though is that sorry to interrupt you, but like
no, you're good.
a lot of that like that kind of nonsense that happened in those days came from people who like seemingly knew the business. Like it was this wasn't people who like didn't know craft brewers and like didn't know what the investment was and and kind of like this was from people who knew the business. So like that's what makes it even more perplexing.
Yeah, that is a good point. And that sort of trickled down though, because they were the people that, without naming everybody, because I imagine a lot of them might have changed their stances, but they were the influences of the time. And they were the people who were sort of had the strongest and loudest voices in beer. And that kind of, resonated. And then I think, and I'd love to talk to the OCB about this, but my understanding was that they passed some sort of a thing where they didn't give the tax breaks to contract breweries because they felt like they didn't spend as much. I don't know if you guys are nodding here, so maybe
there's a higher, you pay a higher tax if you don't.
Could you explain that, Alex?
I can't explain it, but I know that I pay a higher volume. So there's like three taxes. There's like a general like blanket volume tax, and then there's like a different tax if you're canning the beer versus if you're kegging the beer, and then there is an environmental tax for non-refillable containers. So for your cans, you're paying like just over 8 cents a can or something like that.
Damn.
But if you have a brew pub, I believe, I can't recall if it's, because it doesn't pertain to me, I just know it's less. I don't know if it's only for your keg product or if it's also for the can product, but yeah, if you do have a brew pub or like Tide House or whatever, one of those licenses, then you're paying a smaller tax bracket.
Is that what you found too, Michael? Then is that since you're kind of maybe in that world a bit deeper at this because you're going through it right now? Does that sound about right?
Yeah. So because we didn't, I can't even. I don't even think I can even really speak to that quite yet. Really,
okay.
We haven't been made aware of any of those things. I know I'm paying like a set amount, but I assume like I've got a couple quotes from different contract brewers, and there's always a variety of different numbers. Yeah, so
this is what you'll pay on your end once you have the manufacturing license. This is for the Ontario Finance, the Ontario Ministry. So for excise, it's a federal tax that
So we haven't even had to deal with that yet. So yeah.
Okay, so you're a little earlier in the game. So it's like, yeah, okay, that's interesting. So it's like I heard it was the OCB. I think maybe it was them fighting for a reduction in the same taxes for contract breweries. It was something about the overhead. Like contract breweries, even if they don't have the bricks and mortar facility that you got to pay for and the rent and utilities and etc., you've still got labor. Like
you're paying that through your markup in your brew, right? So like a contract brewery is buying. Well, you can either buy your own ingredients or they can buy it for you, depending on what arrangement you have.
Okay.
So like they're basically brewing the beer for you. They're paying whatever they would pay for it, and then they're charging you their own labor cost on that, which covers paying for their lights, paying for their employee, paying for their utilities, and so like it's still getting paid out through.
That's a good point.
And
it's
then
gonna work out the same.
The brewer, you have to warehouse this stuff depending on like for us, like I can't store everything in our little 750 square foot shop. So like I have a warehouse. Luckily, I have a really good friend who's letting me store everything for free. But if that wasn't the case, I'd be paying like the going rate before was like $50 a pallet per month. I'm assuming it's probably more. And then the first contract brewery I was dealing with, they sort of had like a package, and then they then sold off their warehousing to another company, and they had about $1,000 a month minimum charge. And so I didn't have that amount of pallets. So whether or not I had to spend $1,000 or not, I was going to have to spend $1,000 a month just on warehousing my stuff. So that's like,
Jesus.
I had to use pre-printed cans because the contract brewer I was working with at the time was larger and wasn't stickering labels. So I had to get pre-printed cans. I have to order that
the cans
before the brew is done. I have to store that somewhere, and then I have to store the finished product, and then I have to pay an access fee to access my beer from said warehouse.
Get out of here.
And then also like a repalletization fee if it's like something else. So like there's all these costs associated with running a contract brewery if you don't have a physical location. You're still warehousing products somewhere. You're still like paying for logistics. So like paying to get the beer shipped from the contract brewery to the offsite warehouse is kind of going to cost you. And so like I'm still paying. Well, I have a better situation now, but had I not, like I would still be paying those fees. I don't have a truck. I would have to organize some sort of like a freight
Transport freight,
which can cost a lot of money. Like I had to ship my beer out of the warehouse in Toronto up into where we're storing it now, closer up north, like around Palmerston area, and that cost me like just over $600, just under $700 to ship like 3 or 4 pallets of stuff.
Yeah.
And so like logistics and shipping fees and warehousing fees, like contract brewers are still paying things, and then we're still paying for somebody else's lights. So like I know we don't have a ton of employees, and it's still a small business. I don't pay
but
myself.
still.
Well, it adds up.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's still costs associated. It's not like it's like free and easier. Sort of.
Yeah,
that was
sure.
Of all the years talking about this, that is the first time anyone had even mentioned those things, whether in person or on the pod. That is the best argument I've heard to date in favor of making sure contract breweries are taken care of, because contract breweries are building the business. They're in the infancy stage of building to get to that.
Yeah, you expect me to grow the business if I have to keep paying all these things, and then I'm left with less, and then you want me to open a brick and mortar? Like I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, right, but you're making it so hard.
And really, they should want you to do well too, because if you do well, and you're going to just need to order more and more volume, and they're going to make more money, right? So
it
makes sense.
Brings in tourism. I can then hire some people to work for me and teach
taxes,
paying for
taxes.
I mean, that's what I don't understand. Like at the end of the day, if they just let people do like once again, I've been in States probably like I think I did the math, it was basically half July and August, basically half the time. And the more I see these built up cities, I'm just like somewhere like Pittsburgh. I couldn't believe how dope Pittsburgh was. I'm like, Hamilton could be fucking this if they didn't fuck around and have so much bureaucratic red tape. And I understand that things happen for a reason, and there were protections. But as you guys eloquently said before, that a lot of these laws were in place to protect people from things 100 years ago, 90 years ago that were relevant then but aren't relevant now. And they haven't really moved with the times, and they haven't let people thrive. Like the density there, even if you just look at the volume of businesses open, like the density was so much more here. There's so many closed stores here because from what I've been told, and this might not be true, but like commercial landlords don't have an incentive to rent this shit out. They can just write it off as a loss. So it's better for them if it's not they don't have a tenant. That's what the fuck is, and then like
something's fucked up there,
dude. It's crazy. I'm like, the more I hear about it, the angrier I get, and the more I travel, and the more I see what things could be. And I understand there's a downside to the pure capitalist. There's a lot of poverty and a lot more people struggling and stuff, and we do have the social safety nets here, but there's got to be a happy medium where they can help entrepreneurs and business owners help people, because entrepreneurs and business owners employ people, and employment makes everything better. People can afford food, and they won't be tinsel in the parks and all of these other flow-on things that just make living in somewhere better. It's anyway, it's fucking crazy. Let's get the next beer.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. It's a crispy night. Love it. We're going some Lovebird here, guys. We are doing a little bit. Here we go. Proof. A Hellas lager. This is nice. We're just
I think it's actually called Emmer.
Well, he said Proof before, so I'm not. Oh no, it's a collaboration with Emmer.
Oh, sorry. No, it is Proof. It is Proof.
Yeah.
It's a collaboration with Emmer. My bad. I had it backwards.
Okay.
I'm stoked for this one. I'm excited to try the sourdough. That's very interesting.
This is exciting.
This is great. I feel like I don't get to do, because like I'm like you, Mike. I'm a haze boy as well. I don't get to like sit on lagers all night, and it's really fun when we get to do a pod and like dive a little deeper into something. Yeah, it's like good.
my first time drinking this many lagers in a row in
I
years.
feel like
I
lagers don't
think.
get the proper appreciation, and like they are very
Yeah.
subtle, and like you can definitely tell the difference between them. Sort of like how IPAs, people say they all taste the same, but they don't. I think it's once you
No.
drink enough of them, you can really find like the little nuances and everything.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
no
So
question.
I just grabbed mine off the keg because I got it on draft right now.
Oh, that's
Nice.
beautiful.
Oh, must be nice. No.
Yeah, that's a flex, Alex. You're flexing on us. While we're getting this ready, tell us about this beer, brother. So this is Proof. This is a collaboration with Emma's, EMMER, Emma's Sourdough.
Yeah, so Emmer is a bakery in Toronto. They're on Harvard Street. They make some really
nice.
delicious pastries. If you're ever in Toronto, go check them out. They have a bunch of different like lunch menu foods as well, and a really nice patio. So this sort of setup came through a connection through a mutual friend. Like I've always been interested in wanting to make a beer out of sourdough or using sourdough bread. And then my friend owns a restaurant in Toronto, reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I got someone who's looking to make a sourdough beer. Is that like a thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I've always wanted to do that." And he's like, "Okay, let me connect you guys."
Hell yeah.
So I went to go meet the owner of Emmer, Phil, and then sort of we were talking about everything. He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so he's like, "I trust you. You do your thing. Like, we'll use my bread. Just pick how you want to use it," kind of thing. And so I didn't know what direction to go in, and then somewhere I just got the idea to pair it with a like a German Helles style beer. I feel like it's a nice sort of like malty, bready backbone that can really sort of like let the bread shine. So for this brew, we used about 50 kilograms of their sourdough bread. So that came out to be around like 12% of like the total fermentables in there. And then we also used, he sort of just ran with a bunch of stuff and had this crazy idea of taking like these rye berries and like blanching them and then cooking them in his oven at a really low temperature, like for 36 hours. So it just goes to like this intense, like Maillard caramelized, different little reactions. And so basically he brought this on the brew day. He's like, "We can use it or we can't use it. I'm like, all right, we'll decide when we're there and see what the flavor is. So we brought this thing out and it's like this dense, like cake that smelled like fresh, delicious pumpernickel bread. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. 25 kilograms. I'm like, if it does anything, that's great. If it does nothing, cool. We can just say it's in there.
Cool.
But I think it really added to like the back end of the beer, where like when you're drinking it, you can sort of imagine that you're eating like the pillowy innards of the sourdough bread on your first sip. And then on the back end, I think the crust really shines, and that's where like that rye loaf really comes in, where it builds on like the roasted toastiness of like a sourdough bread crust.
Hell yeah, gentlemen.
My
Get
my
that
mouth
in.
is watering. Yeah, we got to drink this.
Cheers, Will.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Oh wow. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like that. So rye is it's a rye bread. Is that right? Like the bread.
Yeah. So this loaf was just like pumpernickel. I think is traditionally just all 100% rye.
Mm-hmm.
So you just like made this really dense rye caramelized loaf. So it has like the loaf itself had like really intense like toffee and caramel notes, but like at 5 kilograms, it's just like such a small percentage of everything else in there. So it just adds like a really, really subtle note to everything.
Right.
I found this beer. I think is it Greg from Slake, the no thinky, easy drinky kind of.
Nick.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah.
Nick. Okay, yeah. So
Nick is a man.
I just heard that and I'm like, I stole it. I'm just like this is like a no thinky kind of beer where like if you just want like a beer, this is it. And then if you also want to like pick at like the little nuances in there, you can do that as well. Which I think like that is sort of how I craft the beers I want to drink, where it's like you can just drink it and enjoy it for what it is, or if you want to like find the little nuances in it, you can definitely do that as well. But it has to sit in both of those worlds, I think, to be like a really well balanced beer.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome, dude. This is unlike anything I think I've had. Like it's got a nice little grassy bitterness, but you're right. Like it's given that like inside of the bread, that little fluffy, like they got the hard crush, get that shit there. It's
I love that description. That's so good because like a lot of the flavor in bread is actually trapped in those little bubbles. That's a lot of the flavor that you actually get when you're eating the bread, right? And it's like very similar with beer. It's a great analogy for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard a description of a bready beer quite like that, and it's so on point.
Yeah, it's breakfast right
I'm
now.
glad you're all tasting what I'm tasting. That means
Yeah,
well, it means the brewers who I gave my recipe to did a really good job.
yeah, man. Shout outs to them. They did a great job.
Again, with contract brewing, like it's really important to find a brewery and a brewer and a team that you can trust to handle your product. Like I've definitely with the first contract brewery we were with didn't get the best products we wanted, and that's sort of like that then sort of left a bad taste on a couple of like really important licensees that we had early on, and they haven't carried our stuff since then, which kind of sucks. But like that's sort of the learning curve. I know everyone has their horror stories with contract brewing until they sort of find the right spot to brew it. But yeah, you really have to have a trust in the team that you're working with to sort of take care of your beer as they would their own, because that doesn't necessarily happen at every place.
Question on that. That was such a good point. So just to sort of even bring home the contract brewing stuff, like for both of you guys, if a contract brewer, you contract them to do a beer for you, you work with them with the recipe, and then the beer they deliver you, if you're not happy with it, are you still, because like, do you still have to pay? Like, how does that work? And if you do have to pay, then you're like, fuck, now I've got X thousand cans of this thing or kegs, and I got to go sell it to a licensee, and the licensee's already committed or something, and now they're going to be pissed. Like, what does that look like? Because I never really thought about that.
I think it depends on like what's written in your contract, and then how closely the contract brewer will then actually adhere to that. And then I think it's sort of like whose side are they going to take? Like, let's say you have a complaint, they'll be like, "Oh, well, we think it's fine. Like, so this isn't like an issue that we can sort of find you on." Like we definitely had at the end of our first canning run, like cans that were foaming over. And so like I had licensees who would open a can and then like beer would gush out like near the end of the batch that I was dealing with. So like, and I couldn't figure out what it was attributing to, because I had some cans stored warm, I had some cans stored cold, and like it wasn't from like re-fermentation. So I don't really know what the issue was. And it's like, it wasn't the whole batch. It was a small part of the batch. And it's like, are they going to refund me on this? Is this just something I have to kind of eat up and just sort of, it is what it is, dealing in the contract world kind of thing. And that then brings it back to like, you really got to find a place that will like handle your product well and has that transparency in the brewing process. Like the first place I went to definitely didn't have that, and it was sort of like a very black box of like, here's my recipe, and I'm like, okay, well, here's your beer at the end kind of thing. And I had just come off of brewing, so I was used to trying the beer after, like as it's going to the tank, and like checking it every day, and like looking at pH, looking at fermentation, look at all these things. And I asked them for a sample. I'm like, hey, can I grab a sample of this beer? Because I'm like, I'm paying you like $10,000.
Yeah, you should probably let me taste it alone.
Yeah, they're like, oh, and they're like, well, we've never had this question. People really trust us and our process, and they made me feel like I was asking something out of line. I'm like, I'm a brewer, I know.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make sure that the beer I've never brewed before is fine.
And like that, and that you're going to be slapping your label and name on, like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. As like a new brand as well, where like no one's had my product before, and this is something I'm putting out first into the world. Like I want to make sure it's going to be reflective of what I want out there.
like this is your first impression beer.
Yeah, so like I've definitely, the beers have improved over the time, and it's every batch you learn from it, and yeah, it's about just finding good breweries that can treat your product well. It's definitely very good in the contract game.
Yeah. Like I remember we were like driving. I'm driving my truck. I've got a 20-foot landscape trailer. We're picking up like a whole bunch of kegs, a whole bunch of cans of our 3 new beers. And I was driving with my partner Mike, and like at one point he just looked over at me. He was like, "What if the beer sucks?" Like, oh, well, we're screwed then, man. I don't know. Like,
Did you ever have that conversation? Was there ever like a similar thing to Alex where you asked for stuff and they made you feel away or anything? No,
it was just that one time asking, and then I went down to like try the beer, and I was like, "Oh, can I go see the tank?" And they're like, "No, we'll bring it to you." And then it was like, it was hazy, and I'm like, "I thought I asked you to brew me a lager." But I'm like, okay, I'll try it, because they told me they had crashed it and it was all good, but then they hadn't actually crashed it, and so I think it was a bigger company, so I think there was a disconnect between like the production side versus like the contract liaison person. Whereas the places I'm working with now, I'm talking directly to the brewer owners
Nice.
and everyone on the team, and it's like if I go and pick up my stuff there, and I'm like, hey, can I try a sample of the new beer that's sitting in the tank? They're like, yeah, no problem. And they'll grab me a sample, and we'll talk about it and go through things. And so it feels like I'm more of a part of the product that I'm making versus the other time, which is just very transactional or cut and dry. Of like, here's how I want it made, and like, okay, we'll make you something.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I would have thought that. I mean, once again, I feel like I'm super naive to a lot of the logic of this, but like it'd be like, all right, well, I'm spending 5 figures on this product. The least you can do is let me come and sample it and make sure along the way, particularly if it's the first time, like you said, and they're scaling up a recipe that had only been previously made on maybe a smaller system.
Oh no, it was just made up on this, like just.
Oh really?
Oh, that's how I do all my beers. Like I don't have time to. I got three young kids at home. I don't have time to homebrew.
Right.
So it's just based off of like conversations I can have with like other brewers who have done something similar. Like with the sourdough beer, like I reached out to the brewer at Barbola because I know they had made like a similar like corn sourdough lager. So I just wanted to get some information of their process and how they handled some things. And so it's just like listening to podcasts, reading books, like hearing perspectives from other brewers, building upon like what I've done in the past, and just being like, I think this will work, and I think this will lean this way, and just sort of like going for it and brewing 1,000 liters of it is my test batch.
Interesting.
That's fun.
That's yeah.
This is why I tend to lean on like the lighter side of stuff, because then I'd rather undershoot something than overshoot. Where it's like you can't take that out, but then if it's always under, at least it'll be just like a nice subtle beer, versus like just being something that's like too expressive or too out there.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Probably a safer bet than to expect. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's probably easy to do stuff like this than maybe like the breweries that excel in, say, something like hazy IPAs, just for example, might not have the space. Kind of what Mike was saying before. Like they don't always have the space to be able to do it. The ones who really know how to make the shit, like the fire. So it's probably, but more breweries have the capability to do great lagers, you know. And then you can kind of
maybe, but like with the hazy IPAs, like the turnaround is so fast. So it's like every few weeks you can bust it a new one. You learn very quickly.
That's true as well. At the same, that's
I mean, it depends on your brewing style and what you're doing, right? Like,
and there's that. Like, this is a question maybe as well. Sorry to cut you off, dude. If you go to a larger brewery like that, and we can be using the Badlands Third Moon, All My Friends counterpart, that type of style of IPA, the milky big boys, like the breweries that typically have the availability for contracting. Do they have like, it's almost like, have you done this before? And if you haven't, like, can you?
That's why I always drink the beer of the contract brewery that I'm going to work with to see like how they brew their IPAs and everything. And then I'm like, okay, if this is how they're doing it, then like I can work within how they're operating and just give them my recipe. Like we did a hazy pale ale, like it sold really well, and it was a delicious beer. Okay, it's just lately like my inspiration's gravitating more towards pilsners. I still am like, every time I need to brew beer, I'm like, oh, we should brew that pale ale again. I'm like, oh yeah, but it's just like
I just want to cruise
a lager that I really want to do. So like, push on like the back end. So
I respect that. Yeah. Interesting. So then, when you guys are this is probably another question. Could like, when it comes to choosing, like, if you're a contract brewery or you're thinking about getting in the game, and like, could you have multiple brewing partners as the contract brewery to be like, my lagers go here, my fucking big dog hazies go here, my stouts go, like, is that something that is done?
It could be. Like, I've definitely had my rice lager brewed at 2 different breweries, and they brew it differently. Sorry, I'm just walking to get a charger.
No,
we're getting a tour.
Yeah, we're getting a tour. I love this.
But yeah, like it's like the same recipe is brewed differently on 2 different brew houses, and that's sort of like the fun about beer is like, it doesn't matter who has your recipe, they'll do their own thing. The water profile changes everything. So the tank geometry, the way they handle their dry hops and everything. So yeah, like I don't know. I've sort of liked the way one brewery has been brewing my rice lager versus the other. I find it gets more hop expression. So the one that you guys are drinking right now has a bit more hop expression than the other brewery that I've been working with.
Okay.
And then I really liked. I know they also just brewed at different volumes a little bit, and so I get just different effects based on the recipe. And so like some beers I'll want less of just because it's a random one-off, like our smoked wheat beer, like our Grodzitsky. I know smoked beer is like a hard sell, so I didn't want too much of that. So I'm like, I'll go with a brewery that'll make a little bit less of that because I don't need too much of it. And then I'll go with a brewery that'll make a little bit more of my mainstay because I'm out of that right now. And my next batch is coming in like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. Have you had, I guess maybe once again, Mike, you might be a little earlier in the journey, but have you thought about like, all right, I know you got, well, now you're kind of looking for a Toronto brewery because Napanee is unfortunately closing down, but like, have you thought about picking the partners based on their skill sets?
Yeah. And that was, I remember when we started working with Napanee because he was a contract brewer and also he was like a consultant. So he actually, sent us a bunch of paperwork on applying for our licenses that was like super, super helpful. I sent everything to him before I applied and sent stuff in, and he would make some corrections and fix some stuff. So it was like, because we just started off and we were like, cool, we're a glass blowing company. Me and like our manager who helps run everything else are just trying to figure out how to apply for all this different stuff, right? So he was like super helpful on that front as well. We ordered a bunch of their beer. We tried everything. We knew he was good at making crispies, good at making light beers. Like he's got a great Pilsner out right now. Like the black lager, those kind of beers. But he does like a seasonal hazy IPA. So we knew going into it that probably wouldn't hit. And that was actually one of the ones that we brewed, like on our, our test pilot system, which is like 30 liters. And it was like such a good beer. It was really, really good. There was a shitload of Nectaron in there. Like it was thick and super juicy. And we sent him the recipe, and then he kind of sent me something back. And it was one of those ones where it was like there was some Nectaron in there, but definitely not at the amount that we were hopping at. And I mean, like you guys have the beers, you can try them. They're good. It's an IPA. It's tasty. They're a little older now. I think they're probably 3.5 months old. So definitely past their prime. So we weren't terribly happy with that, but like I said, it was almost like a happy circumstance where it was like people will try to be like, oh, but I thought that hazies would be way stronger than this, or, way more milky or whatever. Right. So it did work out well in the end. And then everything else that he's done that we've kind of gone back and forth on, like we've been super happy with. So we got nothing to complain about, the beer quality is there. Communication has been difficult for like picking up batches and figuring out some different things. But also turns out he's been going through this whole thing of, closing his brewery. Right. Gotcha. You know what I mean? Like there have been times where I'm like, man, I haven't heard from him in a while, but obviously when we found out about that, we knew what was going on. So, yeah. But yeah, certainly as we look to our next one, we want, someone who can replicate these beers too, that people have like started enjoying and starting coming back for, but probably pick up and that's the thing too, I guess we're planning on basically doing the hazies in-house. But if we ever have one that hits really, really well, we're super happy with, it would be great to take it to, a bigger facility and get it out to licensees and do that kind of thing. If that's the direction we go in, so we'll see,
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have like leads and stuff now, or are you sort of at the point where you're like, fuck, what do we do?
Yeah, there's a couple different. So there's like Spearhead. We've been talking with, Calabogie Whitewater. We've been talking with them. I'm pretty confident they could do anything for us and do well. And those have been beers that I've been drinking for a long time and pretty familiar with, and they do a great job. If I could get something like Fine Balance or all my friends to make our hazies, I probably would. Would. Yeah.
Andrew, fucking Ryan, boys, hook them up.
Yeah. Good guys. We sell so much of their stuff too. People, it's like clearly people love everything they're doing, So Same with all the other big boys. But yeah, it's been nice making connections with those guys too. Like that's actually been one of the cool things about getting all these different breweries in, like messaging back and forth with Troy and talking to Chris at Third Moon, and Ryan came and did a tap takeover for all my friends, and Andrew's awesome. I can message them about anything. It's been nice, like building those relationships and getting familiar with the brewery community, especially coming in with not a lot of like extra experience. The glass community is weirdly like competitive and not super friendly, I would say, in a way.
Interesting.
It's so niche. And it attracts a very specific type of person. And I'm probably not the type of person it would normally attract. I fell into it because of my dad. So I'm kind of like an outlier on it already. So it's been really sweet joining like the brewery community. It's been very like welcoming, like open arms, and yeah, it's been nice. It's been great selling cans and draft of all these awesome breweries and making good connections, and learning from them. It's been awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Evan at the Wheel Brew at all?
Wheel Brew. Are they in Johnstown?
They're in Barrie.
Barrie.
No, I have not.
Okay, I'm curious, and I'd be keen to connect you guys because Evan's like a big glassware enthusiast and started Hayes House Glass.
Oh yes, okay.
Like kind of the side brand with with a local glass blower there, just because he saw that was like a bit of an unfilled demand in the Ontario beer scene. So you guys would probably have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that's something we're going after right now. They just shipped our stamps because we have to get these like brass stamps made, like on the bottom of the glasses. You can see we've got our logo stamped in there. Right. So we just got new stamps done for Mesrim and all my friends.
Amazing.
And, we're like, I'm kind of doing the thing where I'm like, I'm getting them made. I'm going to stamp some glasses. I'm going to send them to them for free. Hopefully they pick them up and start doing it. And it'll probably be for small releases and stuff like that. But I remember when Troy, I think it was like last, I can't remember what it was. They came out with all their barrel aged stouts and they had that nice glass that came with it. And I like messaged him immediately and was like, I can make that next time. Like,
Yes.
But, yeah.
That was early this year.
It's definitely part of the business plan in general on the glass side to expand all the glassware and come up with new designs and cool designs and work with breweries doing glassware for them as well. Especially stuff for like cool, awesome individual stout glasses that go with one release and then they're gone. Right. Stuff like that. Very appealing for, I think, a lot of people.
I love that.
I guess that's another way to work with the industry whilst you're building your brand as well. So it's sort of giving you like a unique like inroad, I guess, to sort of chatting with folks. So you both got the stores where you can both sort of like chat with the people, start to get to know people because you're bringing in their products and stuff. And then I guess on your side there, Mike, you're able to like, hey, I got these glassware and stuff. It's very cool. The other thing we want to sort of, so we sort of touching on all of the contracting stuff. Have either of you guys had any dealings with the LCBO yet, or is it a little on the early side for? No,
I don't know if we ever will.
That's fair.
I am so not interested in giving them money.
We have
totally get it.
Yeah.
I think you froze for a sec there, Alex.
Yeah. Oh, we're just getting a very cool watercolor effect with Alex right now.
Like Van Gogh.
I know. Yeah. It's very weird. It's kind of cool.
It does look kind of cool.
I don't know what's happening, but
I'm sure it'll kick back in. Audio is fine.
So yeah, at least. Hello? Am I completely frozen? Am I good?
Can you hear us?
Okay. So yeah, we applied early on for our product to be in the LCBO as like the. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I feel like my computer might be. I don't know. Who knows? Is this not
It's a
working.
really cool effect happening.
Yeah, the effect is really cool. It's your audio was okay. It's a little delayed.
Can you hear
but
me?
it's
Or
not- yeah.
are you able to hear me still?
I think we've got a pretty significant delay, actually.
Yeah, I think he's delayed. Pee break?
We can take a pee break.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Mhm.
Can you?
Okay. All right. Well, I'll see what I can get out unless my computer.
Well, I'll pause. We can take a pee break, and then we can fix it up off air.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Hopefully, it'll catch up by the time we hit play
Yeah,
again.
Oh, yeah.
it's a good idea.
All right, and we are back.
And we're back.
The watercolors are gone. Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. Could go either way. So we were talking about the LCBO and your experience with them. So Mike, you were like, not going to happen, really, not in the plans.
No plans.
No plans. Alex, you were dabbling with the idea originally.
Yeah. So I think a few months after we launched our beer, like I think the whole plan early on, before we knew sort of what we wanted to do, what contract breweries did in the past, was like get your beer in the LCBO, high volume, whatever. Kind of thought that was sort of the avenue to go down to get sales. So we had applied for our beer. They have like, once you register to their like platform, they have like different openings that they're looking for. So they'll put out callings for certain products that they're trying to fill on their shelves, and then they always have one for like new people in the industry, like new breweries, and I guess so they give an opportunity for new people to join the ranks and get their beers on the shelves.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we had applied to get our beer on there, and so on the platform you got to answer a bunch of different questions about like just the case size and your beer size, but then there's also like pricing. So you tell the LCBO what you want to price your beer at, and then they'll take all their cuts and whatever, and then tell you what you will then take from the end of it. So we had put a pricing out that we thought made sense and would get us a very small amount of money after everything was said and done. And we thought, whatever, it was another avenue to sell beer, cool. But I guess the way it seemed was that like it's one person picking all the beers and stuff, and so the LCBO sort of they're a business in themselves, so they're looking to find what sells well in their store and what will do well. So it's sort of counterintuitive to like progression and putting in new products into the stores. Like they're not looking for something new and innovative. They're looking for something that has experience that will sell well, because in the end it's about numbers on their end, not about like, hey, this is cool new business that's doing some cool stuff, let's put their beer on the shelf and show people how awesome their stuff is. Not saying that's me, but I'm just saying that doesn't seem what their thing is geared towards. And so they eventually rejected our product, which I hear is the case with a lot of people who apply, like from a contract stance or even just any kind of stance, where it's like you kind of have to like keep going and eventually they'll get you in. Or it's if you know somebody who knows someone who can talk to someone and then be like, okay, we'll give you this listing kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they had just said like our beer wasn't good value for the style at the price point that we put it at. But I don't recall seeing any dry hop rice lagers in the LCBO, so I don't know what they're referencing it to.
Right.
But then again, they're looking for a certain product, right? And it's like it's an LCBO game, and you sort of have to build your beer around what they're looking for versus like, I have this beer that I'm really passionate about that I want to put in your store kind of thing. So then, I don't know, it's sort of like there's definitely some good beers in the LCBO. From some good producers out there, but you have to fit like the LCBO mold, I think, to get, or you have to have that proven track record of like you're a big producer and you've sold X amount of dollars, and they're like, okay, we'll give you like another listing because we know people will buy your stuff and you can manage space kind of thing. But I think it's for like a new entrant, it's really hard. And I think a lot of the breweries who go into it, it's just through a necessity of growth, because like Bellwoods wasn't in the LCBO for so long. Burdock wasn't in the LCBO for so long. Blood Brothers, like all these guys, like started really small.
Yeah,
and then as they grew, I imagine they just found the need to then you sort of just have to put your product somewhere, is how I imagine it. And might as well put in the LCBO. It helps bring awareness to your beer, helps bring people to come into your brew pub.
I thought it was
you eventually want people to do, right? Because that's where you make your most money off draft.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
was your margin like in the end when you were looking at it? Was it like, because that's something that I like, we've just been so early on dabbling in this and looking at the contract brewing prices, and that's why we're focused on selling it. Like even in the cans, we do okay. It works out with the entire batch. If you split it like 40% cans, and the rest on draft, it's like, okay, we make, a pretty decent margin off this. But what was it like in the end for cans, like margin wise?
I would have made 10 cents a can to the LCBO. And then the
Wow.
pricing was still not what they wanted it to be. So I would have just basically just been making no money off of the beer going through the LCBO.
Which can it could be good though for just like getting your name out there, getting ratings
Yeah, it
on
might
tap
be.
and all that kind of stuff. I think I looked at who was it, like Our Brew, and they have their one hazy IPA in the LCBO, and it has so many more reviews on it than any of their other beers, even other ones they've been doing just as long. So it seems like it could be good for that, but it's a lot of work for no money.
Yeah, exactly. If I then take into account my own time of having to go and like stock the LCBOs, is it worth it for like 10 cents a can? What am I making per case? Like
$2.40.
Yeah, like is that
Not even
it just wouldn't make sense. And then they found it to be not a good value. Like short cans don't do well at the LCBO. You got to be in a tall can. It's
That's
a
another
different
thing,
demographic, right? Like
Man, we can't sell them either though. It's not just the LCBO. Even we got Godspeed in and it does okay. If they're in tall cans, we would probably crush with them. And even we just started getting matron cans in again because I messaged them because I listened to the podcast and they got janky and decent tall cans, and we just started getting the tall cans in because when we had them in shorties, it's like we just can't sell them.
I got the short cans of janky. I don't know. I just like short cans. My fridge is like.
I like them too.
Probably mostly short cans, but I don't know. I'll do it.
But they just don't shift as fast, eh? That's why.
I don't get that. That's isn't that an interesting
doesn't make any sense.
I think it's just like a psychological thing because it's priced the same, I would believe, in the short can versus the tall can.
It's like equivalent, though.
Yeah.
Ratio.
It's not like there's a price break going to the bigger can, but I think it looks bigger. Like you just do your mental weird math, and it's like, oh, I'm getting more for whatever amount of money.
I think people are just trained by the LCBO to want that.
Yeah.
I don't personally mind it. Especially if you're drinking something heavy. But it was funny, that podcast with Third Moon when they were they got yelled at because they did that triple IPA or quad IPA.
Oh, and the Red Bull
shorty, and people yelled at them about it.
God.
I'm we need a tall can of this, damn it. Okay, I mean.
Well, yeah, my God, they deal with a crowd that gets extremely intense about shit like that.
Yeah,
we don't need to get into it. That's that we've had that conversation before, but holy shit, those those guys are intense, and I'm not here for it.
But I'd love to hear from Matron if they get a big pickup in sales through the LCBO with the tall cans. If that makes a big difference, then clearly, and I think Tooth and Nails, he was talking about that as well, changing over to some stuff in tall cans just to make it work at the LCBO,
It could do for Vim. It would probably do well for him for that.
I would think.
But
I think that was the shift, wasn't it? When you had Justin on, wasn't he mentioning that they did the tall cans?
Yeah, he was.
LCBO specifically for, I think it was you said Janky and Deese, right? With the two.
Yeah, that was the two that I think they told me.
Yeah, and it's I get it, and I think he was just kind of fine. It was
just fine.
But that's the thing. You just have to give them what they want if you want to sell in their market.
Totally. Yeah. And it's kind of like a play. It's kind of almost what you were saying, Mike, whereas I never thought of it from an untapped ratings perspective, and that's a great fucking point. But I think it's also an awareness play as far as now breaking even. No, 10 cents a can. Oh, for fuck. It's almost I do it for a season and I'll suck it up and I'll get the brand awareness. Bless you, Nate. And cool. But it's I can understand the sort of trepidation for wanting to do it. The interesting thing you mentioned, Alex, was to me, everything changed when Bellwoods went in the LCBO. And I think that was a ramification of COVID, where they were like, okay, well, a lot of our retail and our sort of front facing, the pub and all that are taken away from us. How can we maximize the sales when we have this big ass facility pumping out beer?
Yeah, that's true.
They probably had it in their plans anyway, but they went like balls to the wall, and they've probably got like 12 SKUs or something.
I know, yeah, it's like everything. It's like Jitsu, and then just like everything hit the shelves.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then you mentioned Burdock and Towner in there, and like now and Blood Brothers, and there's like cool breweries in the LCBO, whereas previously it was a little bit more, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, a little bit more like accessible sort of beers that weren't like that sort of hype type of shit, I guess.
Yeah, it would be the thing of like you'd go to the LCBO to get your Muskokas, your Nickelbrooks, your reliable shit that you can get anywhere in the province kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. So now you can go and get this other stuff, and now these breweries have leveraged the LCBO into elevating their brands and probably getting more, well, not probably, almost guaranteed, getting more revenue streams through the door, and that'll alleviate some hard times because that's a bit more of a reliable thing, except when they fucking shut down for a few weeks. Then they're probably getting more people through the door in their pubs, and then they're getting more untapped check-ins, as you mentioned, Mike, which, once again, never even considered that as a side effect of this, which is probably, my guess would be a minority of the people, but still more than before. And it's interesting that those cats specifically chose to do it that way. And I know, I feel like that was like telling for this particular period of beer after we'd come off the massive high of crazy hype and all of that. And then now we're having the people like Bellwoods, who were the kings of hype. The only time I ever lined up for beer was at Bellwoods. And now they're in the LCBO, you can just get the stuff. It's like, it's such an but I feel like they've come into maturity. They're 12 years old.
Yeah,
it makes sense for them to be there. Blood Brothers are expanding. They got the second thing. It makes sense. Town are doing their thing. They're doing, all of these breweries are like, all right, I get it. Maybe they had economies of scale and they weren't contracting, so they had a little bit more price control, so they could be either more flexible. Even Jeff, go.
Oh, I'm just saying, that's the thing. Like, I'm losing a bunch of money paying like the markup on the beer that's getting produced. Like, obviously there's the overhead of running a brewery and whatever. So I don't know what comes into that cut, but then I'm paying more per can than the brewery making it themselves. So there's more wiggle room for them to make a bigger profit selling to the LCBO.
Totally.
With me, where I'm already sort of like left with a smaller piece of the pie to take home for myself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like you'd have to do those massive Lost Craft style batches for it to, maybe not quite that big, but you know what I mean, like to be.
Well, something like a larger scale. Yeah, you could get the economies of scale and everything, and so it might bring it down a couple of cents. But then that's the thing, like every little cent matters when you're selling like thousands of cans, kind of thing, right? It all adds up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's next beer.
One last, just before we do that, one last thing on can size in the LCBO. Like, someone who I would be curious to talk to about that is Left Field, because I think they're very much an outlier in that sense, because they have been doing exclusively short cans, like basically like for as long as they've been canning, and and they've been in the LCBO for quite a long time, and have stridently stuck by the short can. And I'm curious how they found that model has gone for them, considering that as we've already pointed out, like the tall can is king in the LCBO. So I'd be very curious how that's worked for them.
I feel like you guys could do a whole panel podcast on just can size. Packaging.
100%.
All the big breweries in, and just be like, what do you take? What are your sales?
I do
breakdown depending on what can size, what format.
Interesting.
I feel like Left Field, though. I mean, they've got their target market, and their target market is familiar with short cans.
Yeah.
Like it's baseball players, it's people going to watch the game, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
And I know when the guys go to baseball, they're all drinking the little short cans of like whatever, right? And they want something light and crushable because they want to drink while they play and do the whole thing, right? So that could be why that's always worked out so well for them. But it's interesting.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
I was also going to say they were
bombers to like the little short cans. There's no in between.
Good fucking point. They used to have the 650s.
Yeah.
Like Laser Show and stuff. Used to have the 650s. And
Oh
then
my
they did
God.
that. My only thought on that was I feel that in the context of the breweries that we're talking about, they were kind of like first movers in the LCBO style, because I remember we had them on the pod in 2018, I believe. It was episode 80, the original series, and they were saying that they were the first ones who said that who told us at least, that they drove their beer directly to the LCBO, and they insisted the condition for them stocking it was that it had to be in a fridge. You know how sometimes you go to an LCBO and you've got all this like hazy IPAs just fucking sit on these warm shelves. You want to punch someone. They're like, the fuck is happening? I feel like I want to snitch on them and text the brewery and be like, dude, like, what are they doing? So I think they might have got in the door when they were a little more, because I feel like Left Field are also at a maturity similar to Bellwoods. I think they've been around similar time. So they got in at an earlier stage than Bellwoods when they were a little more hype and sort of like excited. I remember being like stoked I could get Greenwood at an LCBO. So I wonder if perhaps they had a little more leverage at the time. This would have been pre-COVID that they were in there, and they could have gotten through the door with their own rules before they maybe busted balls a little bit on that.
I feel like early on, maybe they just didn't know like what was happening, like craft beer wise, once they would like open it up to other producers being on the shelves, and like at that point, it was probably fair game for everyone. And then like Mike said, like they have their core people who are going there buying the shorties and everything. So I guess if you have the sales to back you, then they're gonna be like, whatever, you're still making us.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyone new coming in, like there's definitely a certain standard of your product has to look a certain way, it has to be priced a certain way, and it has to be in a tall can. If,
like, I think you might be right.
Rest.
Yeah, if they're selling, then who's going to say no? Like if the movie,
and if they come in so early, like they're one of the big players in the LCBO, right? Like them, like Nickelbrook Collective Arts, like Muskoka, like
and even though like
indie, they need to do whatever they want.
Do you know, on that, you mentioned Muskoka, and that reminded me, Muskoka and BAOS have both done the stovepipe 19.2 ounce cans recently.
Yes, they have.
And that's fascinating because that's like even fucking ramping up. And BAOS did the 9% double IPA in a stovepipe, which is
too much beer.
Especially for a 9% double IPA, that one.
It's a sharing beer.
That one, that's a sharing beer for sure. That one didn't quite do it for me. I was a little more here for it when Muskoka did it with their Oktoberfest lager. Like that, I can be down with.
It was good.
That I can get down with.
Oktoberfest beer is meant to be drank by the liter, so it better be.
So that made sense. But then it's almost like you've got the whole dichotomy of, and they had what's that fucking beer that Muskoka has? It's the white can. It's the signature lager, the Trail or something.
I know
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, with like the foot on it or something.
Yeah, like the session lager. It's Trail something.
And they have shorties, tolls, stovepipes of that beer. And that was one of the first times I'd seen that in Canada. If you go to any gas station in America, they got fucking Voodoo Ranger, and I've even bought I can picture it, Sip of Sunshine from Lawson's. I got the can down here in the stovepipe. Like,
I've grabbed a two-hearted in the stovepipe.
And the two-hearted, exactly, like 7%, 8% double IPAs and such like that. Like, I feel like because if you go to a fridge of a place that has Budweiser in the cooler, and then they have that one fridge and they've got some kind of craft beer there, that's usually what they have. It's just all stovepipes and then Four Loko and all these crazy things, which is also insane. It just but like, oh my god, it's so funny to see not funny, but it's interesting just to see the format choices and the distribution platforms that accept and sort of maybe prefer a specific format. And then now that there's breweries here, they're the only ones that I've seen. I think it's literally just the BAOS and Muskoka that I've seen do the stovepipes. It's like a polar opposite to the shorty, but I don't know. I feel like the LCBO is probably not the optimal place for that, because that's aiming at the mass market. I feel like both stores like you guys are going to be speaking to the real craft consumer, and it would probably be interesting to see those three formats and see what people go for. It's just, I guess, no one's really doing the big dogs except those two that we've seen yet. Maybe someone will do it.
I don't know. I feel like it would do better in the LCBO.
You
'Cause
reckon?
it's like the drinker who's going there is just, I don't know.
Oh, like value. They're like, I'm gonna get
Yeah, like the value, because wasn't like the best selling beer like
that's juicy us.
that, or like it was something by Flying Monkeys, but it was like a triple or double IPA that was like
Oh,
$5 or something, and it was like if you look at like the price per like alcohol that you're getting, it was like your best
Right.
kind of thing.
like right,
Mm.
$1 buck.
Yeah, because like I don't know, bottle shops are expensive. Like
Yep.
I'm buying my beer at close
Retail.
to retail sometimes from some of these breweries, and some of these cans at retail like Badlands was like $6 a can. Like or
Yeah.
buying a couple of cases from them, and it was pretty high up there. So like some of the bigger IPAs retail for more, and I mean like they're putting a lot of hops and a lot of expensive ingredients into the beer, so it's justified. And then I put a markup on that as well to make this place run, and it's like so at the end you're paying like $9 a can of beer kind of thing, and it's like
Well, I understand that, and I feel like we've talked about this, and I feel passionately about this. I feel like there's like I could go to Badlands, I could drive there the hour every week and do that and buy them by the single. But if I order online, you get a forced pack, and you have to have multiple of the beers. Same Third Moon, they sell them in 4-packs. Unless you go to the brewery, then you can buy in singles. So for me, I go to Durand here in Hamilton, and I pay the same. He does the same thing. He drives there every week, picks them up. So I don't have to drive there. He drives there. The fridge is gone.
oh yeah, it totally makes sense. I'm just saying it commands a different drinker and a different demographic. And I
Totally,
just think, like
totally.
the stuff that's at the LCBO versus like what's curated at bottle shops. People going to the bottle shops know what they're paying. And I think I'm like you. Like I don't look at the price. I know if I want a beer, like I'll just grab it. Charge me whatever you want. I once went to a bottle shop and they overcharged me by $60. I was buying like 2 bottles, and it was like $100-something. I'm like, okay, I guess so. And then I checked the receipt later, and they had put like a Willowbald vodka on there that I didn't buy. So I went back, but like I would have just been like, that's fine. How much the beer costs? Okay.
Well, beer is expensive now. Yeah.
Yeah, like wow,
Inflation's real.
these bottles were more than I thought they would be. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's a different consumer, right? Going to different places.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone is going to the bottle shop is looking for like that stovepipe of BAOS or Muskoka or whatever kind of thing.
You're right. They're definitely not. Yeah, it's definitely a totally different vibe.
They might be looking for that stovepipe of the Third Moon triple IPA.
Oh my
You mean
god.
quintuple
Yeah.
IPA?
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
11.9.
But Alex, you must know as well. It's like it's not like an insane amount of work to like curate this beer, and we do the same thing. We have wine, not from the LCBO, from like all over the place. We work with an awesome wine importer who gives us like really cool stuff. We're always trying to find something new and different or something everybody's gonna like. Same with beer. Like we're trying to get all the new releases. We're getting stuff from like Wood Brothers and Badlands and all over the place. And then someone comes in, they just get like awesome selection of all these amazing beers to try, right? So it's like they're paying a little bit more, but if they were to order stuff from all those places, they'd be paying tons of shipping and stuff, right?
Exactly.
Um,
And getting 4-packs and you need to make it worth the shipping that you're getting. So you end up buying like 4 to 6 6-packs. You end up dropping like almost or more than $100 at each individual brewery, or you can spend you can go to a bottle shop, spend $60, be able to pick a couple cans of your favorites from 3 or 4 different breweries.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a privilege. I love that so much about this system because I lived in Montreal for 10 years. So like that's what we were able to do there. Obviously the markup wasn't quite the same because they didn't have the same system, but I'm not mad because it keeps you guys in business. And then if you guys are serving the community, and if that's my fucking fee to do so, to also what Nate said, to avoid the shipping and to avoid the forced 4-packs, not that it's a shade to the brewers, because if I owned the brewery, I'd force 4-packs too. I think that is a fair price to pay to keep y'all in business and you guys to keep feeding me what I want. That is the most convenient way to acquire the product. I think it's
keeps the brewery in business as well. Like we're buying the brewery, they're getting paid, we're getting paid.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful little cycle, and I feel like once again though, but you are correct that it's a very different consumer to the LCBO, and
100%.
Everything has it. But that's why you'd see Katzler, the breweries that we talked about, going to the LCBO to acquire those different kind of consumers. And you could probably argue that those guys who are the more hype ones, if they're able to bring people in via the LCBO, and say you Bellwoods, Blood Brothers, whoever brings people in, they go there. Maybe they're kind of casual craft beer drinkers, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go to that brew pub and check it out. And then they're like, fuck, this is sick. Then they start to go deeper. And then they start to visit more breweries, and they start to visit bottle shops, and then it creates the consumer that the industry desperately needs to survive, because a lot of people might go in and go for the value. Those value customers, I respect it. They're not going to be what craft beer is really looking for, because it's a higher ticket product. It just is what it is. It's like, you're going to go to Niagara Wine, or you're going to buy the $8 bottle. What are you going to do? Depends what you want. You want to get drunk, or you want quality? You're going to buy craft singles, or you're going to buy French triple cream brie? What do you want?
Yeah, you say the same thing for coffee. You go to your Tim Hortons, or you can go to like your specialty roaster. It's like everything serves its purpose, and there's different people who gravitate towards products.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now it's time.
Silver bullet.
Silver
Beer.
bullet.
What?
Boom. Michael, tell us about this little. It's actually really fun to crack a silver bullet. Like, whoa, mystery.
What could it be?
Mystery.
Oh, that was the best thing about working at Collective Arts. There were so many silver bullets in the low fill pile. It was always a
You didn't know what it is. You're like, ooh.
no, never.
Nice.
That's so fun.
Greg, you're supposed to be using your Pilsner mug.
I know,
That's
but I already
right.
used it. Oh.
Yeah, me too.
You got a plan for this shit, man.
Oh, am I the only one? Oh, no, Alex isn't using his. Okay. Well, I try not to double up.
He's using one of our other Pilsner glasses.
Here we go. This looks Pilsner to me.
Okay. Well, I like this. What's this glass called that I'm using, Michael? I like this.
That's
one.
the Big Tasty. So it is for it is made for IPAs. But
oh, no shit.
you know what? It's hilarious. We've actually we do like sangria, and we sell tons of sangria, and that's like the best glass to do a sangria in.
Oh yeah.
But I really love that one. When you get a nice big heavy pour on top, because the foam kind of like sits on top, especially when we're pouring pints. So you get this big, beautiful frothy head to it that sits on top. But yeah, this Pilsner Czech style, it's same thing I said before. I wish I was more involved in the whole brewing process. We kind of went back and forth on design, and we just wanted something like crushable, pretty dry, not super malt forward. Lots of like nice head. We have like a side pull that we've been using to pour it, and it's been fabulous. People really like it. It is this one we did actually. I wanted to get Barn Owl malt. So we use those guys for the malt, so you can really taste a lot of that like breadiness. And I feel like it could just be my taste bud specifically, but I get like a ton of honey off of it. So
Okay. What's this beer called again, bro?
This is the Big Pants Pilsner. So in Merrickville, there's a guy named Harry McLean he's kind of like a famous guy. He's got a mansion in town, kind of like a famous Merrickville guy. Who did like a lot of amazing things in Canada, like building bridges and railroads and stuff like that, fought in the war, but like slowly lost his mind to alcohol and craziness, and did stuff like drive down the street and throw money at his car, tip bag boys like $40,000 and stuff, like some pretty crazy stuff. Yeah. So we actually work with the Historical Society, and a portion of all the sales goes to like Historical Society. And the logo or the can has like a dude with big pants on and all this stuff in a very 1880s way or whatever it is. Yeah. So
I love it. Gentlemen,
cheers.
Get that in you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Solid. 5.4%. Definitely getting that the Czech like the herbal grassiness.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I get like a huge honey finish on the end, or like almost like graham crackery type thing?
Yeah.
On the end. Yeah. But it's it's crisp. It's super delicious. We're down to our last keg already of it, so definitely a good sign.
Good minerality to it.
Mm. Yeah, that's solid, dude. And this was this at Napanee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very happy with it.
Yeah.
So we're just, I mean, now it gets to the point where we're just hoping that we can continue to make something similar to this going forward. Because I feel like everything he's done has hit super well and people really like it. And so just getting that kind of repeatability so we can be consistent with what we're doing, you know?
Yeah, totally. I love it, man. That's awesome. So this is fantastic. Now we were talking about the LCBO. Were there any other like sort of challenges that you both were sort of dealing with as far as like, you know, limitations with like, you know, licensees or other opportunities based on sort of the contracting side or the stores or anything like that? Or is there anything else that you've sort of like, I'm asking this sort of more if you think about people who are considering getting into the business and then they would not, just like you both maybe didn't know a lot of the pitfalls and you kind of figured it out as you went along. Was there anything that sort of stuck out to you guys that, you know, aside from obviously we talked about the LCBO stuff and the distro and the contracting and then the taxes and all of this stuff, was there anything else you guys found that like was a bit of a sticking point? I mean, or also maybe like a win too, like on a positive side, like yo, we were able to do this really easy from the approach.
I don't know. I feel like everything happens in like little baby steps, and like even if people have gone through the process, I think like they always just forget what's happened.
Right.
I feel like it's a lot of like paperwork and bureaucracy to go through just to get licensed. So it's like whenever I would call a contract brewery to like figure out like, okay, how do I like start selling beer? Like, oh, you just contact the LCBO and like they just get you the thing, and yeah, it's super easy. But then once you go through the process, they're like, oh yeah, we need this and that, and they're like, oh, you got to send us a beer, and it's like, I go to the contract brewery, I'm like, hey, I need a beer to send to them, and it's like, well, they won't let me make a beer unless I have a manufacturing license. But then to get the manufacturing license, I need to send them a beer.
So what do you do?
I can tell you later.
Okay.
Little industry secrets.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like these weird things. And it's just they tell you things in chunks of like, oh, okay, you need this, and it's like, oh, well, then after you wait 3 weeks and do this, it's like, oh, now you need this thing to happen, and so
Yeah.
everything always takes 2 or 3 times longer than you think it will take.
Yeah.
I think that's just a general rule of thumb now at post-COVID or whatever. Just things always take longer. Yeah, everything was sort of fed in like baby steps. I think they want to like weed out if you're like serious enough to do the thing. Which makes sense, but it's like, oh yeah, well, we'll tell you this little tidbit of information, and then like we'll wait like a week, see if you come back, and it's like you come back, like, okay, yeah, now you have to do this, and then now you have to do that, and then it's sort of like jumping through the hoops, I guess.
Sounds like immigration.
But there's
Sorry?
so many different businesses you can start and just, you know, like banks will lend you money. Like you can just start up, you can fail 2 weeks later. Like, it's just like it, you know, and then, like we sent in, and I feel like initially we sent in a really good application for everything with the excise tax because we had like Napanese help, and he like gave us a book with everything all written out and how to do. And it's like, you know, it was like 3 months later and we finally got a phone call, and he was like, oh yeah, I got this, you know, 3 months ago, and just finally getting to it. And it's like, it's not his fault. Like, I actually, in needing to call him so much and talk to him about our application, he would just be like, yeah, I'm working on like 100 of these right now, you know, with different things too, because they deal with like milk and lumber and cannabis and everything, right? It's not just dealing with just beer, right? But like, you know, I think he was trying his best to get everything kind of figured out and stuff like that. But it was 3 months before we even got like any sort of response at all. And you can't email with them, right? You can't text them for photos or anything like that. You have to like mail them stuff. So the really fun thing that happened to us was I ended up sending them the check that you have to send for your excise tax is like $51.30 or something like that, or like $52, and they lost the first 2 checks. So we were waiting. We're waiting on everything. Like, it's like everything's done. He's like, it's good. You know, we sent back and forth some stuff. They did make me and Mike send in a document that said we each had an extra $50,000 that we would put into the business if it got into bad times. And I was like, oh, do you need like bank records or, you know, something like that? And he was like, no, you just need to say that you'll do it, like if the business runs into trouble. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know what other business they asked you to do that, you know? But yeah, so eventually the The third, yeah, maybe.
So-
Yeah, the third check finally got in. So, and they cashed them too. Like I have the bank statement saying they cashed them, but they couldn't find them. So
Oh, this
that took.
they lost.
Yeah, they cashed them, so they have them still. Yeah.
So they cashed
They're like,
all
we'll see if
three?
we can refund them. I sent them all like everything. Anyways, it's hilarious.
Oh, you're not gonna.
I don't think I'll get them back. No. But it just like that took like, because I'm like send a check, wait, nothing, So it took like 2 months to get them the check somehow, and they cashed all three of them. So that's fine.
So hang on, but they
get fucked.
they took
Jesus
150K
Christ.
and you don't get a refund?
$150.
Oh, dollars.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. The application fee is like it's so small. It's almost like guys, we're gonna pay you a bunch of money in beer tax and everything. Like, do you need the $50 application
Yeah.
fee?
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently they needed it 3 times. So,
But and they need it in a paper check three
Yes.
times. Like can't do like an email money transfer. Like
No,
gotta,
Or
like,
CRA.
gotta
It's
be
like
a
just
paper
pay
check.
so you guys are CRA, excise tax, and I can't pay through CRA? No, that's too simple.
Nope.
I found that with Canada is so behind with the banking stuff. I couldn't believe, like, even when I first moved here, people were asking for 12 months of, like, for renting a place, like 12 months of post-dated checks. I'm like, a check? Is it 1987? And I forgot. Like, I could not believe that I moved in 2010. I couldn't believe that they wanted checks. I hadn't seen a check. I didn't know anyone who had a checkbook aside.
I know.
from-
Yeah, I only got a checkbook for paying rent years ago. Like otherwise,
Yeah.
Otherwise, you never use
I
it.
haven't written a check in years.
Exactly. Like the checkbooks that I have still have like 2 addresses ago on on them. But bro, like you think you think Canada's banking system is old? Like if you try to do any kind of banking in the US, like it's the kind of thing of like they still do like paper debit and credit slips. Like it's bananas.
That's really the
They've
80s.
got the big thing that goes like ka-chunk chunk.
Yeah.
It's like
No.
Like it's
I'm sure somebody's doing
it's a thing now of like at least it like their retail system has advanced like retail, at least like now most of them have like Square things and whatnot, but like in the bank itself it's fucking ancient, dude.
I haven't been into an American bank, I guess, but I forgot that they never had tap.
Yeah, for the
Now-
longest time.
Yeah.
And also didn't have chips for the longest time. Like American credit cards were still only just mag stripes for the longest time.
Yes.
Yeah, they would come in and I'd be like, oh, you can just tap. They're like, no, you can't. You can't. Like, oh, okay, cool. Yep.
Put it in. Yo, even though I would say now on this last summer, maybe only 10 to 20% of places, you know how you go to a restaurant and they give you a pen and two receipts?
Yeah.
You're like, you're fucking making me figure this out. And then we're like, I gotta pull up the calculator app and like figure it out. Like, I'm like, come on, dude. That was much rarer than it used to be. It used to be 100% of the time.
Yes.
So you know what? You're right. You got to give them credit. Yeah. It's so crazy, the difference, I guess, between places, and that's a good sign that Canada, I guess, is ahead of that. Because coming from Australia, we had like plastic money in the 90s and like early 90s, and we came here and like everything was paper, and they just brought it in after I moved here, and everyone was like, whoa, my god, dude, we've had this polypropylene in this bitch. And it was and all these like even like I don't want to get started on it, so like grudges and stuff like that, just the phone plan fees and stuff. They charge you like $15 a day to go to the States. So we go like 2 weeks with 2 of us. That's $30 a day times 14. I think it works out to be about $300-ish on top of your phone bill. For what? Oh god, furious.
Oh yeah. No, it's exorbitant. It's insane.
Old men whinging right now, but like back to that. Yeah, I mean, just like sending checks to X. I'm like, that's so like just bureaucratic, isn't it? Like it's just
it would be hilarious if it weren't so infuriating.
And then
at least that was not a big amount of money. Like that makes it almost hilarious. But
Thank God it wasn't $1,000 each time, right?
Yeah.
But I was like sending it, like I sent him like the screenshot, like because like I could send him stuff through CRA, right? And even when I sent the last check, I printed out and put the 2 screenshots of the 2 other deposits in, being like, refund these.
And they still haven't.
No, but they got the last one, so that's good.
So I guess
It's okay. At this point, I'm just like, it's in. We got the excise license, right? Like that's
extra
it's all
100
good.
bucks. It is
It's
what it is.
okay.
You guys
It's
keep it
okay.
as a tip.
Maybe I just pushed that over. Just take that with you.
Yeah, make it happen. Just 2 months later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's just so like there's so many things. So was there anything else that you guys found that were whether positive or negative that comes to mind as far as things that you're dealing with from either side? If nothing else jumps in, then it sounds like we probably covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I feel like we've gone through it all. I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
okay, that was fine. It was more just seeing if there's anything, extrapolating out to see if there's anything else. But I guess I'm wondering now that we've been talking for like 2.5 hours. Like now you both heard each other's stories. Really, as we sort of position in the beginning, you're both trying to end up at the same place. Like, you both have a store selling other people's products and your own products through it. You're both contract brewing and you're both trying to figure out the brew on premise thing. Mike, you're probably a little closer as far as like you've got the space in there. Alex, you're trying to figure out how you can do the same thing, but it probably won't happen due to zoning and the actual city and stuff there. But hearing each other's stories, do either of you guys think that either way is maybe the better way to go? Whether it's start as a contract brewery, open up a store to sell the stuff and try and figure it out, or start as a store and then open up a brewery. Does hearing all the stories and considering your own story, does either of it sound easier, or is it kind of all like, yeah, it's all the same shit, just slightly different bullshit?
I think that you'll see a lot more people doing, what we're doing, which is like creative, entrepreneurial, kind of figuring out how to make it work in a different way. I still think you'll see some wealthy people, and I think there's some breweries that are getting built right now, like even around us, where it's like you drive by, you're like, holy shit, that's a big building. Like, they're putting some serious money down on that. And that's awesome. Often they've got like another big business that they run. They're okay with like taking a loss on this, or they can just kind of like fund it. But I think a lot of people that are passionate about beer and, really, really want to do this will find a way to do it. And it is interesting the different ways that we've come about doing it, but how it's actually kind of like similar. I think it's a really good way to start. I really do. I think it's like a smart way to start and get out there. And I know our numbers like really, really picked up when we started having our own, quote unquote beer recipes like on tap and available in cans. It made like a massive difference for us. So, I can see other people starting out like that, and also going to that OCB meeting and just hearing about people making getting smaller systems, right? More optimized systems, trying to sell more on tap. I could see a lot of people kind of starting out in a very similar way to what we're starting. Because it's just way more expensive now to start up and, get $1 million loan to buy tanks, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that was said pretty well. Like, I think it comes down to money. If you have the money to throw behind, and I think, like you said, Mike, it is a lot of these people. It's like a secondary kind of business, or they already had made their money through a different kind of career, and then they're shifting careers into like a food and beverage kind of thing. And so it's like a pay to play kind of thing, where if you have the money, it's easy. You can just sort of like buy a brew house and buy a facility and do your thing and start up, and it doesn't really matter if you sell the beer or not, kind of thing. It'll eventually fall. So I think it's people in our position, when you don't have that luxury, you kind of have to figure out a creative way to get to market and to build the business. And it could be a little bit more challenging, where I think it brings itself into more creative and fun ways, because you kind of have to just think about ways to make it interesting and find a different way and to work within the framework to kind of make it play into a way that you can approach it, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I do see more, like what you said, like more regression in the market. Like definitely post pandemic, like everyone was drinking big during the pandemic. I was working for a lot of big breweries where, like, especially Collective Arts, like they could just brew a batch and it would be gone. Like any experimental beer, they could sell that 60 hex and just like that 6,000 liters of beer and like whatever. They had no issue. They pivoted really well and they captured that at home market. some breweries did really good, some breweries didn't pivot enough, and so there was some big growth and some big investments made during that time. And then afterwards, when everything was, all the dust sort of settled, you saw this little bit of regression with people, a lot of like consolidations or mergers, sell-offs. I think the way craft beer looks now, or like the small brewery world is now, is like it's serving your community. As long as you can be like a community hub, like make a good living, support people, get people to come in, and just be a little small space. You might not grow to be humongous, but like you can make a living and employ a couple of people and just be like a small, medium-sized business. I think that is the framework that'll work now versus like the bigger guys that have a lot more to lose if they don't sell what they produce, kind of thing. There's a lot less on the line when you're smaller, and you have a bit more flexibility, especially like with smaller tanks and downsizing. You don't have to commit to so much volume, and you're not sort of like hitting the ground running all the time. And so I see the shift in the brewery space happening more, and I feel like that's how we'll see it for the next couple of years until things change and everything sort of comes in waves in the craft beer industry. And right now it's at a sort of like a small contracting little space, but I find it brings out more creativeness in what you can do, and what you're going to see in the next little bit. And I don't know. See about that.
Yeah.
And I feel like, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I just like we were messaging about this at one point. Like when Troy was on and he's talking about basically figuring out how to optimize his system in order to get his prices down on raw materials and production, so he can keep his prices the same. And like, even though he's losing more and more and more, you know, and it's like, even, sorry, I forgot his name again. The last guy you had on, he's like,
Kevin.
Yeah. Just talking about how we're making just like such incredible product and it's still selling for so cheap. When you compare it to like wine or whiskey and all these different things, right? And like I remember I was messaging you being like, you know, like this seems like the top of the market's like $2.20 a keg. And I think when like Badlands and all my friends did like a collab, we got the double IPA, like a keg of it, and it was like $2.25. And it's like we're still making an incredibly good margin on that, right? They like at some point they're all just gonna have to start charging a little bit more so they can I would rather them charge more and make a little bit mess on it than them like be like, man, we're going out of business now because we didn't charge more, right?
100%.
And people are drinking less, and like I'm one of the people who's drinking less. I'm trying to cut down. I've got my dad bod, you know, trying to keep that under control. So you know, I can have one less double IPA a night. So it's like if it's a little bit more expensive, it doesn't really bother me, you know. And if that's the way it's heading, it's like we have to adjust to that. And almost like, you know, we sell a couple businesses that are like $9.50 a can. A lot of them are like $7.50 a can. We sell our cans for $6.50. People come in. I think there's some sticker shock, but like in general, if you give them a quick explanation about how much goes into this in the smaller breweries, they have an understanding of it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, drink a little bit less of it then, right? It's not that bad, but if they can make a bigger bang for their buck, it's good for them, right? And they can keep on growing and optimizing and making better, higher quality beer, right? So I definitely think that's one of the ways the industry is going, where you know, they can charge a little bit more and make a little bit more and continue like doing their thing. You know, it's the same in the, I think I was messaging you about this as well. It's the same in the artist world, right? Like I see a lot of similarities between the two, where it's like we used to do wholesale where we would discount our glass like 50%. And it's just not possible now with how expensive everything is, you know? And I've seen so many studios and galleries and shops go down because like they can't figure that out, you know? Yeah. So
pricing is key. Pricing is key, knowing the customer, and sort of maybe like customizing things to each of the different markets if you can, as much as possible, or at least leaning into what you're doing more heavily. So if you are making a big crazy, you're the Hazy IPA brewery, and at the end of the day, the Haze boys like us will just like all four of us will just close our eyes and like, whatever, bro. Like you even took that.
I just don't care.
Yeah, you're just like, whatever. I want that fucking beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the industry as a whole just needs to raise their prices because I think you guys have mentioned many times like you can go on Godspeed and get like the world's best like lager in North America for like $3.25. It's like you should be charging more money than that for that, like 100%.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just
no,
like,
they're gonna have to lead. Someone's gonna have to lead the pack and do it.
well,
Even
exactly.
like
There's a few
tooth and
people
nail
who are doing
prices for the quality of beer is like
Oh,
what?
it's insane.
I know.
It's
Like
insane.
it's crazy. It's like I like we just put on Fog Ducker and Fortitude, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like these are such fucking good beers. How
Imagine-
Like
charge
some-
more,
like
just
some of-
charge
some
more.
of
I'll
the
pay you
best-
more. It's fine.
Some of the best shit you can get in the country.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's I won't say names again. I know we've done this a lot this episode, but one of the Hayes Brewery owners was telling me they wanted to put the prices up, but they felt like if the other Hayes breweries that were all their friends didn't do it with them, then it needed to be like your move as a whole. Like, and I'm talking like 25 cents a can. It wasn't crazy, but if one of them wants to do it and then the other 6 of them don't want to do it because they're scared of how the market's going to react, then nobody can really move. And if one of them goes, now that one might start to sell less and it's going to start to cause some friction because then these guys are going to be pissed, or you know what I mean? It just caused some problems. So it's like you have to, like, it does suck, but it's almost like, at least in that haze world, where you couldn't probably say that about the rest of beer. The more I think of it, you just kind of in your own silo doing your own thing. Like if Godspeed put their prices up, do we expect Tooth and Nail to put their prices up? I don't think we have that same expectation. Whereas if Badlands puts their prices up, we should probably expect Third Moon to put their prices up, and Counterpart and Willowboard and Fine Balance and all my friends. So like they've like kind of all got to move in unison, or it's going to be a little tougher on that market, because also granted in the situation the economy's in right now, like they keep eating stuff, but if they keep eating all the costs, then their profit
Like
keeps going.
that's unsustainable. Like that's going to result in them closing. That's the only place that can end.
and that's the thing. It's like these bigger breweries, they can't afford to like make those bigger cuts kind of thing. Even the small guys can't, but at least there's a little bit more flexibility. You don't have like tons of employees like that you need to take care of to support, right? And then if you keep just eating the cost, it's gonna eat you in the end.
No, and that's the thing. It's like, oh, Badlands raised their prices. Okay, cool. So their family's doing better. That's good. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not, you know what I mean? You're not. It's not.
They're just not eating as much costs.
Exactly.
And that's the lack of understanding the people have.
Yeah. And I also feel like one of the other things with that, when you look at Tooth and Nail and Godspeed, it's like what they are being compared to is very different than Badlands, Third Moon, right? Like they're being more easily compared to Macro. So they need to be more competitive with that. But I don't feel like they need to be, because it's
different.
It's so different, right? So
it's not the same consumer. The same person who's money conscious, essentially, I would recommend to probably steer away from craft beer. There's probably some they could get, but like if it's money is the real issue, then I would say maybe this isn't the thing for you, and that's okay, and that's totally fine. But like trying to get like Budweiser for, I don't even know what it costs for a short can if you want to compare it to the $3 something that Godspeed or Tooth and Nail charges. I imagine it's in the $2 and something for a short can of some sort of Macro. Like it's not that crazy, but if $1 per can makes a difference to you, then maybe craft beer isn't your thing, and that's cool. It depends on who they're going after. And if you just want, like, you know, if you do have the disposable income and you're like, well, I can afford an extra $1.50 a can and get like something that's leaps and bounds, like we all said, is arguably some of the best lagers in the country, continent, world, then I don't know, $1.50 is pretty sweet, pretty decent price to be able to pay to get something.
You can get Vim and Vigor.
And you can get Vim and Vigor, the same thing. Exactly right. Like, you know, it's interesting to see the way it's moving. And I feel like we all said, it's not like we all want to pay more, but we want those beers, so we'll pay it. Yeah. You guys are both talking as consumers, not even as store owners.
And then also as a business owner, it's like I know the cost it goes into to produce that,
making that stuff.
business. I'm like, I'll pay you the money because I know it supports you and it'll feed your family, and it's going to
Mhm.
cause, especially when it's like a small business like that. It's like I know where that money's going because I know where
Yeah.
my like the money I make is going through our business, and it's like it goes to support our family, goes to support our lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to pay $10 a beer if I have to support like a bottle shop, to support that owner, to then go back and support that brewery. Like it's
100%.
like it,
Yeah.
you know,
Happily.
especially in like the community that we are in now, like where we are right now, it's like all the businesses sort of work together, and it's like everything's expensive everywhere, but I know everyone's using good quality ingredients. So I was like, I'll pay whatever you're paying because I know that it's supporting the farmer, or supporting the other business, and it's like if I don't support you, then they're gonna go away, and it's like the things that I want to be around won't be around, and I'll just have to go to like
Yeah.
McDonald's for the rest of my life or something. So it's like,
If
Those
by
good-
like
things
if by buying this this 4-pack of beer from this bottle shop, I get to support this bottle shop that's also that's also a coffee shop, and then and then I can also support the brewer, and then I can also indirectly support the hop grower and the and the yeast lab and the malt grower and and all of these other things, like everything that comes into making this product that like ultimately I'm still going to like enjoy drinking. Like I'm not going to regret a single dollar of that.
But it's like you live once. Why drink something that's bad? Spend the extra money and like enjoy the experience of your life. And,
Thank
like,
you.
Yes, right.
It's like it's once you've like this is a thing like so one of you guys mentioned coffee. I think maybe it was you,
Yeah.
Alex. Like I'm a huge coffee guy. I know Nate is as well. Like we only go to third wave cafes, and like off like I basically my girlfriend and I know the owners of most of the cafes we go to because we go so frequently, not because of BOS or nothing. We just go in there so often. We're just regulars. Like that's so important. And when I moved here, I'm from the city that invented third wave cafes. I discovered it in Montreal, funnily enough. So I had no idea. And then once you drink good coffee, you can't go back to Tim Hortons.
Oh my
No.
god, we went to Barcelona in March, and like the coffee there was like unreal. And then coming back home, even just like
Bro, I was just there a couple of months ago. It was insane. It was insane.
we've been drinking this for years, and I thought it was fine. And I'm like, ugh.
So,
Yeah,
so once you find the good, exactly right though. Like you go to a place like that has fire coffee. Look, I don't know about y'all, but Hamilton, we have multiple phenomenal
Hamilton has
cafes.
had so many good roasters for
It's
so
so good. Roasters, cafes, everything. And it's the same with beer. It's the same with wine. If you go to Rosewood, you go to Back 10, you go to Stratus, like, and then you go and drink. I don't even know what a shit wine would be, but you go and drink something that's cheap and nasty.
Well, like your Peller Estates, like the shit that you can get at any LCBO or grocery store.
Sure. Or like the ones that are in the box wines and stuff like that. Like it's not the same experience. And obviously it's the same with beer. It's the same with good cheese. Like it's the same with good steak. It's that we only go to a butcher here that we message on Instagram to tell them what we feed our fucking dog organic, like high level, extraordinarily expensive meat, because that's where we put our money. That we put our money into the food and the things that we consume, because once you have good stuff, you can't go back. And it always boggles my mind that someone will sit there and drink a Godspeed and then they'll go and drink a PBR. I'm like, I don't get you, fam. Like
PBR has a time and a place for it. I'll drink PBR every once in a while.
I can't do it. But
every brewer has has the beer for them that's like that. I love it.
I get it. I you know, I'm probably using a strong example. I had a bad experience with PBR, so I don't fuck with it. But there's a few like I like Heineken or something or Guinness or something. Like that.
There's always like a macro that's like
that like works for you, right? Totally. But it's more like I'm not going to be like, oh, I need a Heineken. I'm going to be like, oh, they've only got Heineken. Fine, I guess that's a cool. I can rock with that tonight.
Yeah,
but like as opposed to like, yes, that's good. You know, it's like it's just more like once you experience a little finer things in life. You mentioned before, Alex, like you live once. You know, I agree with that so aggressively. Like, I just don't think why shouldn't you treat yourself? And then when you treat yourself, that's supporting all of the things that we were just talking about. And isn't it cool to support the local businesses and to walk into either of your stores and to see both of your faces and to know that the money that I'm getting to support these producers also supports these people here that go to the hassle of curating these products and going out of their way to get them, because Third Moon and Batman's don't deliver. You have to go there to get that shit. Like that's a whole thing for you guys. And that's where, like, for me, I just feel like that is a beautiful ecosystem that I want to continue to aggressively support. And I feel like that's the base we need to grow more, because I feel like the stores are when I was in Montreal, I feel like the people weren't talking about the fact that we could just do this here now in Ontario, like the stores. And this is like remarkable. Like, how strict was this system here? We had the beer store and LCBO, then a little bit of grocery, but that was it. Like, now anybody can just open a store and curate their own collection and make this beautiful thing and stock food and chips and all this stuff and just make this cool. That's amazing. Like, why wouldn't we want to aggressively support that? The freedom of choice and these business owners and entrepreneurs who are trying to deliver that. Like, I think that is like a pretty... that is a market that I think will make a dent in all of this, you know what I mean? Because they're people who want to spend the money, who all of the things we're bitching about here, they believe that too. And they're like, all right, so we need to expose more people to it. And once you open their mind and feel like, you know, they drink something good or eat something good, they're like, whoa. And then you can't go back. And then now the budget has opened up. Well, now I got more budget for this. Maybe, like you guys said, maybe instead of getting a case of Budweiser a week, I'm getting 12 craft cans or whatever it is. Yeah.
I remember it was like right around when we kind of were announcing that we were starting to do the brewery and stuff like that. So we went to, like, me and my wife went to a Sens game, and I got like a pint of beer from there, you know, extremely expensive. And I just like looked at it, and the glass was beat to shit. Like, you know, where it's gone through like the cleaner thing and it's got all the rings around it. And it was all like, it was just like a terrible, terrible beer for $18 in a terrible glass, and the worst piece of glass I've ever seen in my life. I remember looking at it and being like, thank God I'm like doing something to combat this bullshit. Because coming from like a craftsmanship and artistry background with everything, right, where like our goal is always like everything on the floor is like it's as good as it can, it's as good as I can make it with my hands, right? And when you look at just like the macro world, it's just got so shitty. And I feel like anybody that starts to dabble, and that's what it's been one of the cool things about our tap house and the cans that we have, is that people will come in who, like, we had these older two guys there, and they're like, oh, it's his birthday, blah, blah, blah. I think we had, what did we have? We had Trashed on tap, like the double IPA from All My Friends, like great beer. And they normally drink export. Like they talk, and they're like, "Oh, we'll have 2 Trash. It's his birthday, you know." And I was like, "Are you sure? Sure. Okay, it's 8.5%, like, you know." And they fucking loved it. They were like super stoked, and they've been back 3 times since then. And now they buy double IPAs from the fridge, and it's like,
I fucking love that.
It was wild. It's so crazy. Like when they walked in, I was like, "Oh God, I'm about to get trolled." Right?
Like that's not the conversion you expect.
No,
Export's a double IPA.
But they were totally down. They were like, "Whoa, this is like, wow. Like, why does it taste like this? Like, is it like fruit punch in here?" Like they loved it. So
these things.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's the best thing about like having like a interactive space, is like blowing people's minds when they get to try like a different beer they would have never sort of tried, and just like seeing that light sort of like light up in their mind and be like, oh, this is what things can taste like. And I don't know.
Yeah,
that's
have you had similar experiences as well, like that, the way you sort of
a lot with like our smoked beer. So like the Nina that I gave you guys, like it's based off an old historical Polish beer called the Grodzicki. So like
the one,
I've had a lot of people come in who like say they don't drink any beer, but they'll drink that beer, and they love that beer. And it's a smoked beer of everything, and like it's a lot of wine drinkers who will come in who like don't drink any beer, but they like red wine, and like they'll love like that smoked beer, which is really
that's so interesting.
Like just to see, like I thought like nobody would like this except like maybe like a beer nerd or something, or someone who's like Schlinkvilla or whatever, like a really like intense smoked beer. But like it's been appreciated by such like a wide range of people, which is really insane.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked. It does make sense when you say it. If you think a big jammy, sometimes smoky like Pinot or Shiraz or something
We
like
get like
that.
that, like tobacco, that leather from like an
Yeah.
oaky red or something. So like it kind of, because it's a very light smoke. It's only like 15% oak smoke wheat malt, and like the hops are like these earthy like Polish hops. So like it sort of blends into that kind of realm. And so
Gotcha.
I find that like it translates well for people who are used to that in their palate. Some people drink it and like, oh, this is like extremely smoky, and sometimes I'll drink and I'll be like, I don't really taste the smoke in this. But like seeing like people sort of like step out of their comfort zone or just like drink things they might not necessarily have drank before and like really enjoy it is really kind of cool.
That's awesome.
That's always
That's
been like
very
the fun thing about like working at like a beer bars. I was like, pour a sample of something, be like, here, try this, and like see if you like it, and then like see if you're like, oh yeah, this is like really awesome. You're like, yeah, and then you can try like this, and like sort of like opening the like flavor world of like craft beer to people is really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Boys, do you mind if we take a quick piss again? Because the seal is officially broken, and then we'll bring this bad boy home.
Go for
I'm
it.
down.
All right. And we're back.
And
So
we're back.
let's bring this home. Guys, this has been like such a phenomenal conversation. I appreciate you both immensely for this and just being so like honest about where you're at, and it's like the fact of how great this went showed that like how much of a perfect match this was to have you guys on here who just going through really similar things and just had great perspectives on the industry and how it works and the challenges but the positives too. So I just really appreciate your time and your honesty for this, man. I feel like there's
Absolutely.
I imagine you guys both probably feel like you're relatively young in the game in your own businesses. Obviously, Alex, you've been brewing for many years, but
It's still in the business is still young. Like our first beer was released like November 2022, but like it's still like a young brand retrospectively.
Right. So imagine there's somebody who's thinking of starting stuff and then hearing you guys in your, in the early-ish, the first couple of years stages and the hiccups, but the plus sides and all the different things. I just feel like it's invaluable information. I really appreciate you guys just being so just transparent with what you're going through and sort of how it works. And this has been so fun, as fun as I anticipated it was going to be. So I appreciate you both a lot. Thank you guys for hanging out. This is awesome. I appreciate the beers. All the beers were killer, and it was really fun to just drink Crispies for once. Like I said, like I know Mike doesn't do that. I don't really do that. I love Crispies.
Oh, this has been a real pleasure. Getting into these. Absolutely.
Yeah, like every single glass is empty. Like I'm just gonna wrap this one up.
Oh yeah.
Mine too.
Everything's killer. Killer stuff. Very happy that both of you exist and that you're doing what you do and providing the service to your respective communities. I think I'm like, I know Nate and I are both extraordinarily passionate about bottle shops and the value that they bring to communities, as we have gone on about for this whole episode. So thank you both for doing what you do. Alex, first of all, where can everybody find Lovebird online and in real life?
We keep our Instagrams most up to date. We're in the process of redoing our website at the moment, so you can find Lovebird Beers on Instagram at Lovebird Beer, and if you want to know anything about our bottle shop, it's at Lovebird Snack Club on Instagram, and we have a website as well, but it doesn't get updated as frequently as I would like to because I'm doing a lot of things up.
A million things. Can people order online any of the beers?
Not at the moment. We were doing online ordering for like local, but then I haven't had time to update it, so I just sort of put it on hold for now. But yeah, a lot of the bottle shops carry our stuff. If you're in Toronto, like we got Bossa Nova that carries our stuff pretty regularly. Good Cheese on the East End sometimes. I know Evan and Barry has had our stuff once in a while. But
hell yeah,
there's a lot of good places around that have our stuff, or come up to Thornbury, Ontario, the greater Georgian Bay area, and check out our little spot.
What's the address?
It is 49 Bruce Street South in Thornbury, Ontario.
Bang. Love it. Make sure you guys check it out. Mike, where can everyone find Gather online? So
we are Gather Brewery and Glassworks everywhere. So Instagram, Facebook, website, everything. And we are located in the beautiful little historic village of Merrickville. So it's an awesome place to come visit. Lots of cool shops, restaurants, cool Airbnbs in the area to stay and stuff like that. And yep, that's where you can find us. Come by and have a beer. And then you also, if you want, before you come, you can sign up to do some glass blowing and then have a beer after. So that's always fun.
That's
Amazing.
What's the address as well? Physical address.
We're 635 St. Lawrence Street, Marrickville, Ontario.
Love it. Beautiful. So guys, make sure you check both Lovebird and Gather out. Boys, stick around. We'll have a bit of a yap afterwards. I forget because haven't done a pod in so long. Okay. Guys, thank you again. Let me see if I get this right. Nate, correct me. If you guys enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit the notification bell.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, at Nathan Does Beer. We're dropping now. We're back in action. This is September. We're not fucking around. It's fall time. It's Oktoberfest season. This is our favorite time of year, aside from lacking heat. The fest beers and Marzens and all of that shit. We're excited for it. We're ready to go. Folks, thank you again for your time. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.